The gold hotel sign said, "Do not disturb," but Marissa had taped a handwritten card beneath it in her careful looping script. Mothers plus bridal party only. Since I was Daniel's mother, I knocked. The door opened 3 inches. Amanda, Marissa's college roommate, stared at me through the gap as though I had shown up selling magazine subscriptions. Behind her, music played, somebody laughed, and Patricia sat in front of a mirror wearing a champagne-colored robe while a stylist worked hot rollers into her hair. "I brought breakfast," I said. Amanda looked down at the cardboard trays balanced against my hip. "Oh, great. And the steamer, and Marissa's sewing kit. Great." She did not open the door any farther. I smiled because, at 64, I had perfected a smile that could survive committee meetings, condolence lines, and my late husband trying to assemble furniture without instructions. I also have an appointment in there. Amanda glanced over her shoulder. The laughter stopped in pockets, one person at a time. Then Marissa came to the door, already made up, her dark hair pinned in shining sections. "Elaine." "Hi. Hi, sweetheart." She pressed one hand to the doorframe. "We're trying to keep the room calm." I looked at the card under the "Do Not Disturb" sign. Then I looked back at my son's bride. Am I not one of the mothers? For a second, nobody moved. Even the curling iron seemed to stop hissing. Marissa stepped into the hallway and pulled the door nearly shut behind her. She wore white satin slippers and the matching robe I had paid for after Patricia said the bridesmaids' robes looked cheap on camera. Marissa's said bride in rhinestones across the back. One stone was already missing from the B. "This morning has gotten a little complicated," she said. "I can see that." Mom woke up feeling extremely emotional. Through the door, Patricia called, "I can hear you. I know, Mom. I'm not ashamed of having feelings. No one said you were." I shifted the breakfast trays. Coffee had begun soaking into the corner near my thumb. Marissa lowered her voice. "She really needs this space to feel safe." Patricia called, "I can still hear you." Marissa closed her eyes for half a second. "We thought it would be easier if you got ready in your room." I waited for the part where she told me the stylist would come upstairs. When it did not arrive, I said, "My makeup appointment is at 8:15. We canceled that." "You canceled it?" The schedule was too packed. The appointment had been on the schedule for 4 months. I had received 3 emails about arriving with clean, moisturized skin and absolutely no mascara. My clean, moisturized face suddenly felt like something I should cover with both hands. Nobody told me. I thought Daniel did. That sentence had become a piece of wedding equipment. I thought Daniel did. Daniel thought Marissa did. Patricia believed no one should have to tell me because I was so wonderfully adaptable. I looked at my watch. 8:07. Could the makeup artist come to my room after she finishes in here? Marissa's mouth tightened. "We're already running behind. Then I can wait. It's not only about the appointment." There it was. A hotel housekeeper pushed a cart toward us, slowing when she saw the breakfast, the garment bag over my shoulder, the sewing kit hanging from 2 fingers, and Marissa guarding the door in slippers. I stepped aside to let her pass. "Good morning," the housekeeper said. "Good morning," I said. Marissa said nothing. When the cart was gone, she exhaled. "Mom is worried there could be tension." "Between whom?" "You know." "No, I don't." "Elaine." "Marissa." The door opened behind her, and Patricia's face appeared above Marissa's shoulder. She had foil patches under her eyes, and half her hair rolled, giving her the look of a glamorous woman receiving signals from space. "I told her this would happen," Patricia said. "What would happen?" I asked. "This. The interrogation." I asked who the tension was between. Patricia pulled the door wider. For one hopeful instant, I thought that meant I was being invited inside. Instead, she stepped into the opening and planted herself there beside her daughter. "This is Marissa's wedding day," she said. "She shouldn't have to manage other people's expectations." I looked down at the coffee, then at the sign, then back at Patricia. My expectation was to get my hair done at the time printed on the schedule. It always starts with the little things. That is a little thing. Exactly. I had known Patricia for 2 years and still sometimes felt as though we were arguing from opposite ends of a phone call. Marissa rubbed her forehead, careful not to touch her makeup. Please don't do this. I wanted to ask what, specifically, I was doing. Standing? Holding breakfast? Existing within range of Patricia's hot rollers? Instead, I said, "All right, let me put these things inside before the coffee falls through. I'll take them. I can carry them." The room is crowded. I glanced through the opening. It was a suite larger than my first apartment. 6 women moved among garment bags, flowers, mirrors, and room service plates. There was enough empty carpet behind Patricia to host a yoga class. Marissa reached for the sewing kit. "Did you bring the ivory thread?" "Yes." "And the little scissors?" "Yes. Thank God." I let her take the kit, but I kept hold of the trays. The kit had belonged to my mother. It was a hard red case with a brass clasp that snapped like a mousetrap. Marissa had loved it the first time she saw it. She called it charming, which was what younger women called useful old things, before asking to borrow them. "Where's the steamer?" she asked. "Under the garment bag. Can I have that too? The dresses need steaming in there?" Amanda's hem got folded in the bag. Amanda spoke from behind Patricia. "It looks like an accordion." "It does not look like an accordion," Marissa said. "It's a very subtle accordion." Someone laughed. The room loosened again without me. I took the garment bag off my shoulder and handed Marissa the steamer. My own dress was inside the bag, but I did not mention that. At home, the deep blue fabric had hung smoothly. After the drive downtown and the walk through the damp parking garage, it had developed a wide crease across the skirt. Patricia looked at the trays. "Is one of those oat milk?" "The one with the green dot. Green is almond. Today, green is oat. Why would they change the system?" "I don't run the coffee shop, Patricia." Her chin lifted. Marissa shot me a warning look. Not angry, worse, pleading. "Be easy," it said. "Please be who we planned for you to be." I had seen that look all year. When Patricia objected to the rehearsal dinner being held at an Italian restaurant, I found a new place. When she said navy made her look medically unwell, I exchanged my silver dress so she could wear the color she wanted. When Marissa asked me not to mention Daniel's father during the welcome toast because she feared it would make the evening sad, I deleted half the speech. Each request had arrived wrapped in affection. "You're the reasonable one. You know how she gets. We couldn't do this without you." Daniel had been saying versions of the same thing since he was 20. After his father died, it became almost tender between us. He would call with a problem and start by saying, "You're the only person I can ask." I mistook that for intimacy, longer than I care to admit. The elevator chimed at the end of the hall. Daniel stepped out wearing black suit pants, a white undershirt, and one untied shoe. His dress shirt hung over his arm. He looked 34 until he saw me, and then his face became the face he used to make when he was 17 and had backed my car into the trash cans. "Mom." The word came out like a warning. I felt something in me sink, quietly and completely. "Daniel," Marissa said, "I thought you were upstairs. I need Dad's cufflinks." "They're here," I said. The small gray box was in my purse. I had carried it against my side all morning, checking for it every 15 minutes, even though the zipper was closed. Daniel looked from me to Marissa, then at the breakfast trays. "What's going on?" Marissa folded her arms over her robe. I explained. Daniel's eyes met mine for less than a second. That was enough. He knew. "You canceled my appointment," I asked him. He dragged a hand through his hair. "I thought Marissa was going to call you." "I thought Daniel was going to call you," Marissa said. Patricia made a soft sound that somehow managed to accuse me of poor timing. I said, "The note says mothers are getting ready in there." Daniel glanced at it as if seeing it for the first time. "I didn't make the sign. I didn't ask if you made it." "Mom, can we not do this in the hall? I would be happy to go inside." Patricia disappeared into the suite, muttering, "Unbelievable." Marissa's face crumpled at the edges, not enough to ruin the makeup, but enough for Daniel to see. He immediately moved toward her. That was when I understood the arrangement. Patricia could cry, Marissa could break, Daniel could panic. My job was to remain structurally sound. "Please," he said to me, "just get ready in your room. My dress needs steaming. We'll bring the steamer back." "When?" "I don't know. Soon." The bottom of one coffee tray gave a wet crackle. Daniel reached for it. "Give me those." I held on for one stupid second, not because I wanted the coffee, but because once he took it, there would be no reason for the door to remain open. "Mom." I let go. He stacked both trays against his chest. Marissa took the garment steamer and sewing kit. Between them, they had everything I had brought except my purse, my wrinkled dress, and the cufflinks that had belonged to the man who would have known exactly what this moment cost me. Daniel shifted the trays. "The cufflinks? I'll bring them downstairs. I need them now. You don't even have your shirt on. Mom, please." His voice dropped. "Just for today. Don't make this harder." He said it softly, almost kindly. That was the part that hurt. Marissa opened the suite door. Music and hairspray and warm air spilled into the hall. Daniel stepped inside with the breakfast. She followed with my mother's sewing kit. Then my son looked back at me. He could have said he was sorry. He could have told me he would come upstairs in 10 minutes. He could have left the door open while he found a place to set down the coffee. Instead, he reached past Marissa and pulled it shut. The "Do Not Disturb" sign swung on the handle. I stood there listening to the muffled sound of women thanking him for breakfast. A moment later, Patricia laughed. My phone vibrated inside my purse. It was a text from Daniel. "Don't forget the cufflinks." I rode the elevator to the 11th floor with my dress folded over one arm. A man carrying an ice bucket smiled at me and said, "Big day? You have no idea." In my room, I laid the dress across the bed. The crease looked worse under the window light. I checked the bathroom for an iron, found one bolted to a shelf, and stared at it as if it had personally betrayed me. Then I sat on the edge of the mattress and opened the gray cufflink box. 2 small silver squares rested inside, each engraved with my husband's initials. For 5 full minutes, I considered leaving them on the nightstand and driving home. Instead, I took off my shoes, filled the iron with water, and locked the door. The iron coughed brown water onto the ironing board. I caught it before it reached the dress, which felt like the first favor the universe had done me all morning. I carried the iron to the bathroom and held it over the sink while it sputtered like an elderly man clearing his throat. "Take your time," I told it. "Apparently, we have no schedule now." My phone rang on the bed. Nora's name filled the screen. Nora had been my friend for 28 years, which meant she could hear trouble in the way I said hello. I considered letting it ring, but Nora was also capable of calling the front desk and asking them to perform a wellness check. "Good morning," I said. That sounded fake. "I just answered the phone." "Exactly. You usually say, 'What do you want? What do you want?' Better." There was traffic noise behind her. "I'm on Jefferson. Is valet parking really $52? Only if you want your car back." I knew there was a catch. "How's the bridal circus?" I set the iron upright beside the sink. "They're running behind." Of course they are. Patricia probably needed a separate chair for each emotion. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Nora heard the rest of what I had not said. "What happened?" "Nothing happened." "Elaine, I'm getting dressed. So is every other person attending the wedding." "That's not an answer." I walked back to the bed and touched the crease in my skirt. They canceled my hair and makeup. Silence replaced the traffic noise. Who canceled it? It got crowded. Did the hotel suddenly shrink? Patricia was feeling emotional. Patricia feels emotional when a restaurant serves Pepsi. Nora, I'm serious. Remember your birthday? She spent 20 minutes explaining why sparkling water made her feel dismissed. I sat down beside the dress. There was a sign on the door, "Mothers and bridal party only." Another silence. Then Nora said, very carefully, "Where was the sign?" "On the suite." "And where are you?" "My room. You are the groom's mother. That fact has been raised. I'm turning around. No, I'm 6 blocks away. You're not coming up here and starting something. I wouldn't start anything. I would finish several things already in progress. Despite myself, I smiled. Nora, go park. Get yourself coffee. I'll see you downstairs. Do you want me to come help you get ready? I looked at my own face reflected in the dark television screen. My hair was still damp around the temples from the mist outside. No. If you come up, I'll tell you everything, and then you'll go downstairs wearing your court face. My court face is elegant. You look like you're deciding whether the witness deserves water. That is elegant. I'm fine. You're not fine. No, I said. But I can operate an iron. The iron spat in the bathroom as if objecting. Nora said, "Was that a cat? I'll see you downstairs." Elaine, what? Don't protect Daniel so hard that you help him hurt you. I ended the call before she could hear my breathing change. For the next 40 minutes, I performed the sort of small domestic miracles nobody photographs. I hung the dress from the shower rod and turned the water as hot as it would go. I pressed the crease between 2 towels. I used the hotel hairdryer to chase dampness from the skirt and nearly blew a complimentary shower cap into the toilet. The dress improved from crushed to merely traveled. My hair was less cooperative. I had planned on a smooth, low twist. What I achieved looked like a cinnamon roll secured with drugstore pins. I took it down, tried again, and ended with a softer version that would survive as long as no one hugged me. My makeup bag contained foundation, mascara, 1 lipstick, and a tiny blush compact I had owned long enough for the brand to change its logo. I had not packed eyeliner because the artist's instructions said to arrive bare-faced. I used the corner of the mascara wand and immediately gave myself a black mark beside my nose. There are moments when a woman must choose between dignity and a wet washcloth. I chose the washcloth. At 9:12, Daniel texted again. "Cuff links?" I did not answer. At 9:15, "Mom, where are you?" At 9:17, "Pictures start soon." I put on my earrings. My husband had given them to me on our 25th anniversary, small silver drops that moved when I turned my head. He had hidden the box inside a bag of hamburger buns because he believed gift wrapping encouraged unrealistic expectations. He would have hated the hotel, not the cost. Walter could tolerate almost any price if somebody provided enough towels. He would have hated the hallways, the schedules, the way everyone spoke in lowered voices while doing impolite things. I zipped the dress as far as I could reach, twisted one arm behind my back, and caught the zipper pull with the hook of a wire hanger. For 3 terrifying seconds, the hanger lodged between my shoulder blades. I pictured the hotel staff finding me at noon, pinned inside a blue dress like an insect in a display case. The zipper finally rose. My phone rang. Daniel. I watched it buzz across the nightstand. On the 4th ring, I answered. "Hi. Mom, I need the cufflinks. I know. Where are you?" "In my room. Getting ready, like you asked." His breath came through the phone. Behind him, men were talking and laughing. "Can you bring them to 8:15? I thought pictures started soon." "They do." "Then perhaps you should finish getting dressed." "Mom, I'm not trying to fight. Neither am I." "Okay, but you're doing the voice." "What voice?" "The one where every word has a little hat on it." That was so exactly something his father would have said that I almost laughed. "Room 815? I asked. "Yeah, please." I placed the cufflink box in my purse and checked myself in the mirror. The dress fit well. The crease was still visible if I stood under direct light, which meant it would be visible in every photograph taken by a professional. I went downstairs. Room 815 was open. A man I recognized as one of Daniel's co-workers stood near the door holding a necktie and a can of deodorant. He smiled at me. "Mrs. Mercer, you look fantastic." "Thank you." "Which one of those goes around your neck?" He glanced down at his hands. Still negotiating, the room smelled like aftershave, coffee, and nerves. 4 men moved through it in various stages of formal dress. Marcus, Daniel's best friend, was steaming his own shirt with the bathroom shower. "Is that steam?" I asked. He looked guilty. "Hotel iron attacked me. They hunt in packs." Daniel stood by the window in his dress shirt and trousers, his tie hanging loose. When he saw me, relief crossed his face so openly that part of me softened before I could stop it. "There you are. I said I'd bring them." "I know. Thanks." I took out the gray box. The room quieted, not because anyone knew what had happened upstairs, but because they knew the cufflinks had belonged to Walter. Daniel opened the box and ran his thumb over one engraved square. "Dad wore these at your wedding, right? He wore them at our 25th anniversary dinner. At our wedding, he wore a rented tuxedo with ruffled cuffs." "Seriously?" He looked like a riverboat magician. Marcus laughed from the bathroom. Daniel smiled, and for a moment we were standing in my kitchen again, talking about Walter as if he had only gone to the hardware store. Then Daniel tried to fasten the first cuff link. His fingers shook. "Here," I said. He held out his wrist. I slid the silver post through the buttonholes and turned the backing into place. His hands were larger than his father's, but the shape of the fingers was the same. Walter's wedding band had sat crooked because he had broken his knuckle playing softball. Daniel had inherited the knuckle without the injury. When I finished the second cuff, he looked at me. "You look nice. Thank you. Really. The blue is good. I know." I picked it. His smile faded. "Mom." The other men found sudden reasons to check their phones. I kept my voice quiet. "Did you know last night that they were canceling my appointment?" He glanced toward the open door. "Can we do this later?" That's not an answer. Marissa was stressed. Patricia was emotional. He closed his eyes. "Yes. So you knew." "I knew there was an issue with the room, and your solution was not to tell me." "My solution was to try to get everybody through the morning. I am part of everybody. Of course you are." I looked at his cuff. One of the links sat slightly crooked. I resisted the urge to fix it. A woman wearing a black headset appeared in the doorway with a clipboard tucked against her chest. I recognized Brittany, the wedding coordinator, though she looked less cheerful than she had at the rehearsal. "Daniel, we need you downstairs in 5. Immediate family photos are starting in the west lobby." She checked her page. "Where's your mother?" Daniel and I looked at each other. "I'm his mother," I said. Brittany blinked. "Of course." "I'm sorry, I've only seen your rehearsal dress." "That must be it." She scanned her clipboard. "You're supposed to be in the bridal suite for hair and makeup. Apparently, I was moved." Her eyes flicked to Daniel. He picked up his jacket. It was a space thing. The suite upstairs could have held a small orchestra, but Brittany only nodded. Wedding coordinators knew when a lie was load-bearing. "All right," she said. "We'll adjust. Mrs. Mercer, come with me." Daniel shrugged into his jacket. "We'll talk later." "Will we?" He paused. Brittany touched her headset. "West lobby in 4 minutes, please." Daniel gave me a strained look and followed Marcus out. I went with Brittany to the elevator. She checked her clipboard again. "I apologize for not recognizing you. It's all right. I met so many people yesterday. I said it's all right." The elevator doors opened. Inside stood Patricia in her champagne robe, carrying a glass of something orange, with the hairstylist beside her. She looked me up and down. "Oh," she said, "you're dressed." Brittany held the elevator. "Mrs. Lane, we need you dressed in 10 minutes. Patricia waved the orange drink. "I was told I needed vitamin C. You need your dress." Patricia stepped out, then turned to me. The blue worked out after all. I entered the elevator. As the doors began to close, she leaned toward the gap. Although it does photograph almost black. The doors slid together before I could thank her. Brittany stared at the glowing floor numbers. "I don't know how you do this every weekend," I said. "I drink water and mind my business." "That sounds healthy. It isn't always water." In the west lobby, 2 photographers rearranged chairs beneath a wall of artificial greenery. Daniel was fastening his jacket while Marissa posed near the windows in her robe, surrounded by bridesmaids. Her hair was finished now, smooth and intricate, with small pearl pins placed along the twist. My mother's red sewing kit sat open on a chair beside her. I walked toward it. One of the photographers stepped into my path. "Sorry, ma'am, family only for the next set." Before I could answer, Daniel said, "She's my mother." The photographer's face brightened. "Perfect. We've been looking for you." Across the lobby, Marissa turned. For a second, she looked relieved that I had stayed. Then her gaze dropped to the crease in my dress. Marissa's expression lasted less than a second. Then she smiled for the photographer. "Elaine, come stand with us." I stepped onto the marked strip of carpet. The photographer, a lean woman named Celeste, studied the arrangement through her camera. Bride in the center, mothers on either side. Patricia had not returned in her dress, so Celeste motioned for me to stand beside Marissa. Marissa touched my elbow. "Your skirt got wrinkled." "Yes. Didn't you steam it?" The steamer was needed upstairs. "Oh." She looked toward Amanda. "Could we get it back down here?" Amanda glanced at her watch. "Your mom's dress still needs it." "Of course it does," I said. Marissa's fingers tightened around my elbow. I was only trying to help. Celeste lifted the camera. "Everybody look at me." I smiled. "Beautiful. Little closer together." Marissa and I each moved approximately half an inch. Closer. Her shoulder touched mine. She smelled of face powder and the white floral perfume Daniel had given her for Christmas. She had worn it to my house for dinner and left the bottle on the bathroom counter. I found it after they had gone and driven it across town because she needed it for work the next morning. "Great," Celeste said. "Now look at each other." Marissa turned toward me. I turned toward her. "Like you love each other," Celeste added. The camera clicked while Marissa's smile trembled. I did love her. That was the inconvenient part. I had loved the way she beat Daniel at trivia and pretended not to notice when he changed the subject. I loved that she sang under her breath when she chopped vegetables. I loved how she took off her shoes in my kitchen without asking and how she had cried the first Christmas I put her name on a stocking. Love did not make the morning less ugly. It only removed the clean pleasure of hating her. Celeste lowered the camera. Perfect. Patricia swept into the lobby wearing a pale gold dress with a cape attached at the shoulders. She had spent 6 months describing the color as antique pearl, but it was gold. The cape floated behind her as she walked. "Why are you doing mother pictures without me?" "We were checking the light," Marissa said. Patricia looked at Celeste. "You won't use those, will you?" Celeste's face became professionally vacant. "We'll select the strongest images during editing. I'm ready now." Brittany hurried over, headset tilted against one ear. "Excellent. Mrs. Lane, we need you on the bride's left. My right side photographs better. The light is better on the left. I brought my own light." Patricia pointed to a bridesmaid carrying a small, circular lamp. Brittany took a breath through her nose. "Of course you did." We shifted positions. Patricia stood on Marissa's right anyway, angling one shoulder toward the camera. I was placed on the other side. With Patricia's cape spreading behind her and Marissa's robe fanning around her knees, I looked like a woman who had wandered into the wrong advertisement. Celeste took several pictures. "Now bride and her mother," she said. I stepped away. Patricia pulled Marissa against her and immediately began to cry. Not heavily, just enough to make her eyes shine. "My only daughter," she said. Marissa whispered, "Mom, don't. I'm allowed to be moved. Your makeup." A stylist rushed in with a sponge. I walked to the chair where my sewing kit sat open. Several spools had rolled into the fold of a robe. The little ivory-handled scissors lay beneath a paper plate, holding half a bagel. I picked up the scissors and wiped cream cheese from one blade with a napkin. Amanda appeared beside me. "Sorry, we had an emergency." I gathered. Kayla's strap came loose. "Was there blood?" "What?" "You said emergency." She gave an uncertain laugh. "Right." I replaced the spools and snapped the brass clasp shut. The sound made Marissa look over. "I might still need that," she said. "I'll leave it with Brittany." "Why?" "Because I'm going into the ceremony. You can bring it to the bridal room afterward." I rested my hand on the red case. "Marissa, it's mine." Her face changed. She did not look angry. She looked confused, as though a chair had refused to be sat upon. "I know that. Good." Celeste called for the groom and his mother. Daniel crossed the lobby toward me. "Ready?" he asked. "I've been ready since 8:15. His eyes flicked toward Marissa. "Please." "I'm smiling, Daniel." That isn't always reassuring. We stood in front of the greenery. Celeste positioned his arm around my waist and my hand against his chest. "Groom, look at your mom." Daniel turned toward me. "Mom, look at your son." I looked up at him. The tension in his face softened. He had a tiny scar beneath his chin from falling against a coffee table when he was 23 and living in an apartment where all the furniture came from sidewalks. I had driven over with butterfly bandages and soup. He had told me I was overreacting, then called the next morning to ask whether the cut looked infected. Celeste clicked the shutter. "Wonderful. Now, Mrs. Mercer, fix his tie." I straightened a tie that did not need straightening. The cufflinks flashed when Daniel lifted his hand. "That's gorgeous," Celeste said. "Hold that." My throat tightened. Daniel noticed. "You okay? Your tie is crooked." It was fine. "Then stop moving." He almost smiled. Celeste took another picture, then showed us the back of her camera. In the image, Daniel was looking down at me with affection. I was touching his tie. No one would ever guess that less than an hour earlier, he had closed a door in my face. "That's a keeper," he said. "It is," I answered. I did not know whether I meant it. Brittany arrived carrying the sewing kit. "Mrs. Mercer, I put this in the coat check room under your name." "Thank you. We're lining up for the ceremony in 12 minutes. Daniel was called away for photographs with the groomsmen. Marissa disappeared upstairs to put on her gown. The lobby emptied in bursts, leaving abandoned water bottles and a single false eyelash stuck to the arm of a chair. I found Nora near the ballroom entrance, arguing with an easel. "I'm not touching it," she said as I approached. "I'm observing that it's crooked." The easel held a framed seating chart decorated with painted vines. Nora wore a dark green suit and gold earrings shaped like leaves. Her silver hair was cut close around her face, which made every expression look intentional. She examined me from shoes to hair. "You look beautiful." "Thank you. You look like you did it yourself." "Also true." Her eyes sharpened. "Do you want me to say something?" "To whom?" I made a list in the parking garage. I took her arm and steered her away from the ballroom doors. "You will say congratulations. You will have dinner. You will not commit a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is a low bar. Nora." She reached into her purse. "Fine, I have something for you. If it's a weapon, keep it." "Powder." She held up a small compact. I laughed, and that was how Brittany found us. Nora patting powder over my nose while I tried not to sneeze. "Mrs. Mercer, we're getting the family seated." "Perfect." Nora handed me a ceremony program. "They spelled your name wrong." I looked down. The back page listed the wedding party and family. Under Daniel's name, it read, "Mother of the groom, Eileen Mercer." "They added an extra E," I said. "They removed an entire woman, Nora. The bride's mother has a paragraph. Patricia's paragraph thanked her for her unending devotion, creative vision, and countless sacrifices in making the day possible. My line was beneath it, misspelled and alone. Nora took the program from my hand. "I'm getting you another one. They're all printed the same. I'll find a pen." I caught her sleeve. "Leave it. You're allowed to be upset. Not here. That's the problem, Elaine. There's never a place where you're allowed to be upset." Before I could answer, music began inside the ballroom. A low instrumental version of an old love song floated through the doors. Brittany moved people into position with swift gestures. Patricia appeared beside us, now carrying a pearl-covered clutch. A tall man I recognized as her brother took her arm. "Where am I going?" I asked Brittany. She checked her clipboard. "The groom's mother is escorted by." Her finger moved down the page. "Daniel. Daniel is already at the front." Brittany looked toward the ballroom. That's right. Patricia leaned close to her brother. We discussed all of this at the rehearsal. I had attended the rehearsal. No one had rehearsed seating the mothers because Patricia had spent 40 minutes changing the order of the bridesmaids. Brittany pressed her headset. I need an escort at the ballroom entrance. Patricia and her brother moved ahead of me. The doors opened. She lifted her chin, arranged her cape, and walked down the aisle while the guests turned to watch. I stood behind the closed doors when they shut again. Nora remained beside me. I'll walk you. You're not in the procession. I've never let that stop me before. Marcus came jogging from a side hallway, his tie finally around his neck. Sorry, he said, slightly breathless. I've got you. Brittany adjusted his jacket and positioned us at the doors. Marcus offered me his arm. You look great, Mrs. Mercer. You already said that upstairs. I'm reinforcing the message. The doors opened. Every face turned toward us. I kept my eyes on the first row, where Patricia was settling into her seat as her brother smoothed her cape behind her. The chair reserved for me stood on the opposite side of the aisle, empty. Marcus walked slowly, matching my pace. Near the front, I saw Daniel beside the officiant. He looked startled when he recognized Marcus at my side. Then his eyes found mine. For 1 second, embarrassment crossed his face. Not confusion. He knew exactly who had been supposed to walk me down that aisle. I sat alone in the first row. The music changed. Everyone rose as Marissa entered on her father's arm. Her gown was simple and soft, nothing like Patricia's cape or the elaborate dress Marissa had nearly chosen. She looked nervous and radiant and completely herself. Daniel's face opened when he saw her. Watching him, I remembered why I had agreed to all the adjustments, why I had changed restaurants, changed dresses, changed my speech. I had wanted him to look exactly as he looked in that moment, astonished by his own happiness. Marissa reached the front and took his hands. The officiant spoke about partnership, patience, and building a home where both people could be fully known. Daniel glanced at me during his vows. I could not tell whether he was checking that I was still there or asking me not to leave. The officiant asked Marissa to repeat a promise about choosing Daniel in ease and difficulty. Her voice broke on difficulty. Daniel squeezed both her hands. You've got it, he whispered. The guests laughed softly, and so did Marissa. She took a breath and tried again. I choose you in ease and difficulty, in certainty and doubt, and in every ordinary day we are lucky enough to share. There was nothing polished in the way she said it the second time. She looked frightened by the size of the promise. Daniel looked frightened too. That helped. Perfect people are difficult to forgive because they leave you nowhere to put the damage. Marissa had never been perfect. She sent thank you notes 3 weeks late and worried aloud about whether people were mad at her. She bought expensive candles and then refused to burn them. She could sit at my kitchen counter for an hour telling me why she was afraid she had offended a coworker, then leave without noticing I had cooked dinner around 3 separate food preferences. She was not heartless. She was scared of the wrong people. When Daniel began his vows, his voice was steady. You make every room feel more alive, he told her. You challenge me, you make me braver, and you remind me that love is something we choose, especially when choosing is hard. My eyes dropped to the cufflinks. Nora, seated behind me, reached over my shoulder and placed a tissue in my hand. I dabbed my eyes. Patricia glanced across the aisle. For once, her expression held no triumph or criticism. She was crying openly. When the officiant mentioned the people who had shaped Daniel and Marissa but could not be present, Patricia looked at me. Walter's name was not spoken. Neither were Marissa's grandparents' names. It was only a general sentence, likely copied from a wedding website, but Patricia touched 2 fingers to her lips and then pressed them against her heart. For a moment, we were simply 2 women watching our children cross into a part of life where we could no longer follow them. Then she leaned toward her brother and whispered, loud enough to carry, "My cape is caught under your shoe." The feeling passed. Marcus had the rings. He patted his jacket, then his pants, and produced such genuine panic that Daniel began laughing at the altar. "Inside pocket," Daniel whispered. I checked. "Other inside pocket. There are too many pockets." The officiant waited. Marissa covered her mouth. Finally, Marcus found the rings in a small velvet bag tucked behind his phone. "I was testing everyone," he announced. "You failed," Daniel said. The room laughed. The tension loosened. Rings were exchanged, the final words were spoken, and Daniel kissed his wife with one hand cradling the back of her head. Everyone rose. I stood with them. For all that had happened that morning, my joy was real. It came up so suddenly that it hurt. Daniel was married. The boy who used to call me from the grocery store because he could not remember whether lettuce was sold by weight had placed a ring on someone's hand and promised her his life. As they came back down the aisle, Marissa's gaze met mine. She smiled. Not the careful photographer's smile, a wide, relieved grin. I smiled back. The guests flowed toward the cocktail lounge, but Brittany directed the immediate family through a side door for more photographs. I followed Patricia's cape into a smaller ballroom, where Celeste and her assistant had set up lights in front of tall windows. A server tried to hand Patricia a glass of champagne. "Not before pictures," Celeste said. Patricia kept it. Marissa's father, Richard, stood near the windows with his new wife, Denise. Richard was a soft-spoken man with a gray beard and the permanently apologetic posture of someone who had been divorced from Patricia for 15 years. Denise wore lavender and carried 2 purses, one of which belonged to Richard. "Elaine," she said warmly, touching my arm, "that blue is beautiful. Thank you." Patricia took a drink of champagne. "It's reading darker on camera." Denise blinked. "I like dark blue." "I didn't say it was bad." "No," Richard murmured. "You rarely need to." Patricia turned. "What does that mean?" Celeste clapped once. "Let's start with the couple and both sets of parents." The phrase created an immediate geometry problem. Richard and Denise moved toward Marissa. Patricia stepped between them. Daniel beckoned to me. I stood on his side, leaving a space where Walter should have been. Celeste peered through the lens. "Can we balance this out?" "No," I said. She lowered the camera. "Sorry? There's only one of me." Daniel's hand touched my back. "Mom, I'm not complaining. I'm explaining the math." Denise made a small choking sound that might have been a laugh. Celeste rearranged us so Richard and Patricia stood with Marissa, while Denise and I stood at the outer edges. Patricia objected that divorce did not make her and Richard a couple. Denise offered to step out. "No one's stepping out," Marissa said. Her voice was sharper than I had heard it all day. Everyone became quiet. Marissa looked at Denise. "Your family. Please stay." Denise's eyes softened. Patricia finished half her champagne. We took the picture. Then came one with the couple and Richard, one with the couple and Patricia, one with Marissa and Denise, and one with all 3 women. Celeste called for Daniel and me. "We already did ours," Daniel said. "We did getting ready photos. Now you're married." As if marriage had altered his face in the last 20 minutes. I stood beside him again. This time he put his arm around me without being told. Celeste raised the camera. "Mom, give him a kiss on the cheek." I kissed his cheek. He smelled like Walter's aftershave. I pulled back too quickly. Daniel saw it. His arm remained around me while Celeste took the photograph. "Dad?" he asked under his breath. I nodded. His eyes reddened. "Yeah." Celeste lowered the camera and quietly waited. Daniel looked toward the window. I wish he was here. So do I. He'd have said something weird during the ceremony. He would have asked the officiant how long it was going to take. Daniel laughed and wiped beneath one eye with the side of his thumb. I fixed his cufflink. It had gone crooked again. "I'm glad you brought these," he said. "I said I would." The words landed between us with more weight than they deserved. He opened his mouth, but Brittany called for the wedding party. Daniel was pulled toward Marcus and the others. Marissa crossed to me while Celeste arranged the bridesmaids. "I'm glad you stayed," she said. I looked at her. She immediately seemed to understand that she had chosen the wrong sentence. I'm glad you're here. Where else would I be? I don't know. Her fingers worried at the edge of her bouquet. You seem like you might leave. I considered it. Her eyes lifted to mine. I had never lied well, and age had not made me interested in improving. Before she could answer, Patricia called, "Marissa, they need you." Marissa stayed where she was. "Did Daniel talk to you?" she asked. "He asked for the cufflinks. I meant about upstairs. He asked me not to make the day harder." Her face lost some color beneath the makeup. "That isn't what I told him to say. I don't imagine it was. I didn't want you to feel excluded." You put a sign on the door. That was for hotel staff. The note said mothers. I know how it looked. "No, sweetheart, you know what it said." Marissa's mouth opened. Celeste called her again. I stepped back. "Go take your pictures. We need to talk. Not here." She nodded, almost gratefully. "After the honeymoon." "Perhaps." I walked toward the cocktail lounge. Nora met me at the door with 2 glasses. "One is gin," she said. "The other is more gin. I don't drink gin. Today is full of new experiences." I took a glass. It turned out to be champagne. "You lied. You looked like you needed to believe it was stronger." We found a quiet spot beside a tall table decorated with white roses. The cocktail lounge hummed with adult voices, ice against glass, and a saxophone version of a song I recognized but could not name. Nora watched me over the rim of her drink. "How bad were the pictures?" "Patricia brought her own lighting. I'm sorry I missed it." Richard insulted her. "I'm devastated I missed it." I drank some champagne. Nora's humor faded. "Did Daniel apologize?" "He said he wished Walter were here." "That isn't the same thing. I know. You can love him and still know." I set down the glass. "Could you please let me get through 1 hour without reminding me to have self-respect?" "No." "Why not?" "Because you're very good at scheduling it for later." A server approached with miniature crab cakes. Nora took 2. I took 1, then realized I had not eaten anything. The breakfast I bought had gone into the bridal suite. I took another. Across the room, Daniel and Marissa entered to applause from the guests nearest the door. They had slipped away from photographs, and Daniel now carried 2 champagne glasses. He handed one to Marissa, then leaned down while she said something in his ear. He laughed. Whatever had happened upstairs was not happening between them now. They looked relieved to have reached the part of the day where everyone congratulated them. Daniel noticed me and started across the room. Halfway there, a group of his co-workers stopped him. One clapped him on the back. Another called Marissa over. Daniel looked at me above their shoulders and lifted one finger, asking me to wait. I waited long enough to finish the crab cake. Then Brittany announced that the reception ballroom was opening. Nora and I joined the stream of guests. At the entrance, attendants handed out table cards. Mine said Table 2. Nora's said Table 9. "Absolutely not," she said. "It's assigned seating. I've ignored stronger governments. You'll sit at your table." "With whom?" I checked her card. "Richard and Denise." Nora considered this. "Fine. Richard has potential." Table 2 stood directly beside the long head table. My place was between Marcus and Patricia's brother. Across from me sat Patricia, Richard, and Denise. Apparently, Nora's card had been printed incorrectly, which she treated as divine intervention and solved by moving her chair beside mine before anyone could object. The room glowed with candles and strings of small lights. My name card said Elaine correctly. I tucked it into my purse beside the ceremony program, an act I could not have explained. Dinner passed in courses interrupted by toasts. Richard spoke first, briefly and gently. Patricia followed with 9 pages of handwritten remarks, including the story of Marissa's first apartment, her first promotion, and the first time she told Patricia she had met someone named Daniel. Then Daniel stood. He thanked the wedding party, the guests, Richard, Denise, and Patricia. He thanked Walter, touching one cuff as he spoke. Finally, he looked at me. "And my mom," he said, "who has always been the strong one, the person who never needs anything and somehow makes sure the rest of us have everything." People turned toward me, smiling. The room filled with applause. Daniel lifted his glass. I lifted mine because everyone was watching. He thought he had honored me. That was the worst part. Nora leaned toward me while everyone clapped. "Never needs anything, not now." That was not a compliment, I know. Daniel came around the table as soon as he finished the toast. Guests stopped him twice to shake his hand, and Patricia caught his sleeve long enough to tell him he had forgotten to thank the florist. When he finally reached me, his face was bright with champagne and relief. He bent down and hugged me. "I meant every word," he said. "I held him because he was my son, and because loving someone does not switch off at the exact moment it becomes inconvenient." "I know you did." He pulled back. "Did you like the part about Dad?" "Yes, I almost lost it." "I saw." His smile softened. "You okay?" The question was quiet enough to sound private, but Marcus sat on my left, Nora on my right, and a photographer stood 6 feet away waiting for us to look, moved. "I'm sitting here," I said. Daniel frowned slightly. Then the band leader announced the first dance, and Marissa called his name from the center of the room. He squeezed my shoulder. "We'll talk." The same promise, moved another hour into the future. Daniel joined his wife beneath the lights. Their song was something slow and modern, sung by a man whose voice sounded permanently surprised. Marissa rested her forehead against Daniel's cheek. They whispered and laughed through half the dance, forgetting the guests. Patricia watched with one hand over her heart. Richard watched Patricia watching them. Denise watched Richard. Nora ate my dessert. When the song ended, Richard escorted Marissa onto the floor for their dance. Brittany appeared beside Daniel and spoke into his ear. He looked over at me. I knew what came next. We had chosen our song months earlier, or I thought we had. Walter used to sing "What a Wonderful World" in the shower with great feeling and no relationship to the melody. Daniel suggested it because, he said, Dad should be in the room somehow. The band began playing a jazz version. Daniel held out his hand. "Come on, Mom." I set down my napkin and went with him. His palm was warm. Mine felt cold. We moved slowly because neither of us was much of a dancer. Walter had handled all family dancing by bending his knees and pointing at people. "You look nervous," Daniel said. "I'm concentrating." "On swaying?" "There are cameras. You've been photographed before." Not while wearing a dress, I steamed with a hairdryer. His mouth twitched. "You did a good job." "I'm resourceful. You mentioned that in the speech." The smile left his face. "Are you mad about the speech? It was a lovely speech." "Mom." "Daniel." "You've been doing that all day." "Doing what?" "Answering the question you wish I'd asked." We turned beneath the lights. Guests swayed at the edge of my vision. "All right," I said. "Ask the question you mean." He looked over my shoulder. "Are you mad at me?" "Yes." His hand tightened against mine. "For the room?" "For your part in it." I didn't know she was putting up a sign. You knew I was being kept out. I knew Patricia was having a hard morning. So was I. That's not what I meant. "I know exactly what you meant." He exhaled. "I was trying to keep things from exploding. You chose the person least likely to explode and handed her the damage." He missed a step. I steadied him automatically. The habit was so deep it had become a reflex in my hands. "I'm sorry it got handled badly," he said. "It was an apology designed by a committee. No person, no action, only a thing that had somehow gotten handled." "You looked at me in that hallway," I said. "You took the food out of my hands and you closed the door." His jaw shifted. "Can we not do this during the dance?" "You asked me. I asked if you were mad, and now you know. We'll talk when we get back. Then don't ask questions until you're willing to hear the answers." The song ended. Applause rose around us. Daniel kissed my cheek. I hugged him again because the photographer was there, because everyone was watching, and because some part of me still wanted to protect the memory of his wedding, even from the truth of his wedding. When we separated, he looked tired. "Love you," he said. "I love you too." Neither statement solved anything. The band launched into something fast. Marissa pulled Daniel back toward the dance floor, and the guests joined them. Nora took my hands and made me dance for exactly 40 seconds before my shoes objected. "You have no rhythm," I told her. "I have rhythm, I lack obedience." Richard drifted over and danced with Nora in a style that involved snapping his fingers. Denise filmed them on her phone. Even Patricia laughed. For a while, the evening became what it should have been. I ate cake. Marcus brought me another glass of champagne. Amanda apologized for blocking the door without quite naming that she had blocked it. I told her it was all right, then corrected myself. "It wasn't all right," I said, "but I know you were in a difficult position." She stared at me, holding 2 napkins and a slice of cake. "Thank you? You're welcome." Near 10, I went to the coat check room and retrieved my sewing kit. Brittany found it beneath a stack of shawls and handed it over with both hands. "I'm sorry about this morning," she said. "You didn't put up the sign." "No. But I should have caught the schedule change. Would you have been able to stop it?" Her pause was honest. "Probably not. Then you would only have known earlier. I could have sent someone to your room. That would have helped." She nodded. "It would have." Her headset crackled. She touched one finger to it, listened, and her shoulders sank. "What now?" I asked. "The farewell brunch. What about it?" She hesitated. "Nothing you need to worry about. That was new. Every problem that weekend had somehow become something I needed to worry about." A server hurried up and whispered to her. Brittany answered in a low voice, then looked across the ballroom toward Patricia. Patricia sat near the dance floor with her shoes off, one foot resting on an empty chair. She had wrapped her cape around herself like a blanket. Marissa crouched beside her. Brittany said, "Excuse me, I should have walked away." Instead, I followed at a distance, not because I intended to fix anything, but because old habits do not disappear simply because a door closes. Patricia was pressing 2 fingers against her temple. "I cannot be downstairs at 7:30, she said. "I've reached a physical limit." "The brunch begins at 10, Brittany said. "We only need someone to approve the table layout and confirm the welcome bags. The layout is obvious. It changed when the hotel moved us to the Magnolia Room. Why did they move us?" The guest count increased. Patricia looked at Richard. "Your cousins." "They were on the list," Richard said. "They were on a list. That doesn't mean they were expected to accept." Denise placed a glass of water in Patricia's hand. "You should hydrate. I've been hydrating all day." "With champagne," Richard said. "It contains water." Marissa saw me near the edge of the group. Relief crossed her face before she could hide it. "Elaine." Every person turned. She came toward me. "Could you do us a huge favor?" Nora appeared at my elbow as if summoned by danger. "What favor?" I asked. "The brunch setup. Mom was going to oversee it, but she's not feeling well." Patricia closed her eyes to demonstrate. Marissa continued quickly. "You already know the menu and the welcome bag list. It would just mean being downstairs at 7:30, checking the room, and staying until the caterer has everything set." I did know the menu. Marissa had called me twice while choosing it, because Patricia thought eggs were too intimate for a buffet. I had assembled 36 of the welcome bags at my dining room table, while Daniel and Marissa addressed labels. Normally, I would have said yes before she finished asking. "No," I said. Marissa waited. Perhaps she thought I was still considering. "I can't take that on," I added, "but it's mostly organized. Then it should be easy for someone else." Daniel had joined us. "What's going on?" "Your mom doesn't want to help with the brunch," Patricia said without opening her eyes. I looked at Daniel. "Marissa asked me to take over the setup in the morning." I said no. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom, it's only a couple of hours. Then you can do it. We're the bride and groom." "And?" He stared at me. Brittany stepped in. "The hotel can manage most of it. We only need a family contact for a few decisions." "Richard can be the contact," Denise said. Richard lifted his glass. "I'm available." Patricia opened her eyes. "You don't know the plan. I can identify a table. The centerpieces have specific spacing. I'll bring a ruler." Marissa looked at me as if the room had tilted. "I don't understand. Yes, you do. Is this because of this morning? This morning is why I'm tired. Being tired is why I'm going to bed. Her eyes filled. I said we should talk. You said after the honeymoon. So now you're punishing us before we can? No. I am declining a job. It doesn't feel like that. I glanced toward Patricia, still wrapped in her cape. When your mother says she cannot do something, you call it a physical limit. When I say it, you call it punishment. Marissa's face went still. Daniel stepped closer. That's not fair. No, I said, it isn't. Nora touched my forearm. Not to restrain me, just to remind me I was not standing there alone. Richard cleared his throat. I'll be downstairs at 7:30. Denise nodded. So will I. Brittany looked visibly relieved. Perfect. I'll text you the revised diagram. Patricia muttered something about asymmetrical centerpieces. The problem was solved. The ballroom did not collapse. No one sounded an alarm. I had said no, and the world had located another adult. That should not have felt miraculous. I found my purse at the table. The ceremony program and place card were still inside, along with the cufflink box Daniel had returned after the photographs. The silver squares remained on his wrists. Marissa caught up to me near the elevators. You're leaving. I'm going upstairs. We haven't done the bouquet toss. I've been married. It wouldn't be sporting. She did not smile. Are you coming to brunch? Yes. Her shoulders loosened. As a guest, I said. The elevator doors opened. Daniel stood across the ballroom watching us, but he did not come over. I stepped inside with my sewing kit in one hand and my purse in the other. Marissa remained in the hallway, white gown glowing beneath the lights. Good night, sweetheart, I said. The doors closed before she answered. The room was dark except for the lamp beside the bed. I set the sewing kit on the desk, kicked off my shoes, and stood there in the blue dress listening to the air conditioner run. Downstairs, the band was loud enough that the bass traveled through 11 floors of concrete. I could feel it faintly beneath my feet. My phone lit up with a message from Nora. Richard is using the ruler. A second message arrived with a photograph. Richard and Denise stood in the Magnolia Room beside a round table, both holding one end of a measuring tape. Brittany was laughing in the background. I wrote back, Civilization continues. Nora responded, barely. I put the phone down. Getting out of the dress took longer than getting into it. I found the wire hanger, hooked the zipper pull, and managed to lower it without dislocating anything. The dress fell loose around me. Someone knocked. For half a second, hope rose before I could identify it. I thought Daniel might have come upstairs. When I opened the door, Amanda stood there holding my garment steamer. Marissa said this was yours. It is. She handed it over. The water chamber was empty and the cord had been wound around the handle so tightly it bent near the plug. Thank you. Amanda stayed in the doorway. Her lipstick had faded and one side of her hair had come loose from its pins. Without the bridal suite around her, she looked less like a guard and more like a tired woman in a satin dress. I feel bad about this morning, she said. You said you were in a difficult position. I was, but I could have opened the door. Yes. She flinched slightly. I was not used to letting a plain answer remain plain. Normally, I would have rescued her with something about stress or weddings or everybody doing their best. The comforting sentences lined up in my mind and waited. I did not say them. Amanda rubbed one thumb against the other. Marissa didn't want to hurt you. I believe that. She was trying to keep her mom from melting down. I believe that, too. Amanda looked relieved, but only for a moment. Neither belief changes where I got dressed, I said. The music below shifted to a heavier beat. She really does love you, Amanda said. I love her too. That seemed to leave us with nowhere to go. Amanda wished me good night and walked back to the elevator. I closed the door, placed the steamer beside the sewing kit, and changed into a hotel robe. At 11:20, Daniel texted, Sorry tonight got tense. I read it twice. Not I'm sorry I hurt you. Not I'm sorry I knew. Not even I'm sorry I forgot to walk you down the aisle. The evening had simply gotten tense, the same way the morning had gotten handled badly. Events kept occurring around my son with no evidence of human involvement. I plugged my phone into the charger without answering. The next morning, I woke before 7 out of habit. For years, any family event had meant I was first up and last seated. My body expected work even after my mouth had declined it. I made coffee in the small machine, opened the curtains, and looked down at the hotel entrance. Delivery vans stopped beneath the awning. A man in a chef's coat rolled 2 metal carts through a side door. People appeared to know what they were doing without me. At 9:30, I dressed in cream slacks and a soft gray sweater. The wedding program lay beside my purse. I considered throwing it away, then slipped it into the outside pocket along with my correctly spelled place card. The Magnolia Room smelled of coffee and warm bread. The centerpieces were not spaced evenly. Some sat in the exact center of the tables. Others leaned toward the salt shakers. Civilization continued anyway. Richard stood beside the buffet examining a pan of scrambled eggs. "They're too intimate," I said. He looked at me, confused for half a second, then laughed. "You heard about that." I was consulted. We almost lost them at 8:15. Patricia texted that eggs should be served in individual ramekins. What did you tell her? That the chickens had already committed. Denise came over with 3 cups of coffee balanced against her chest. "Elaine, you look rested." I look washed. Same thing after a wedding. She handed 1 coffee to Richard and 1 to me. "Thank you for taking over," I said. Richard shrugged. "I moved vases." Denise stopped me from putting 12 welcome bags on the same chair. He believed guests could take one as they entered, Denise said. It was self-service. It looked like a pyramid scheme. They were still debating when Nora arrived wearing black trousers, a red blouse, and dark glasses. Richard looked at her. "Late night?" "I'm mysterious." "She watched a home renovation show until 1 in the morning," I said. Nora took off the glasses. "Why are you attacking me at brunch?" Patricia entered at 10:15. She wore a flowing white pantsuit and told 3 people she had slept only 40 minutes. Her hair remained smooth and her makeup was fresh. Whatever physical limit she had reached the night before had released her in time for photographs. She inspected the nearest table. "These are uneven." Richard buttered a roll. "I lost the ruler. I knew I should have come down." No one answered. Daniel and Marissa arrived 10 minutes later to applause. She wore a white sundress under a denim jacket. He wore dark pants and a blue shirt open at the collar. They both looked exhausted and happy. Marissa hugged Patricia first. Patricia held her at arm's length and said something about the jacket being too casual. Then Marissa came to me. Hi, sweetheart." She hesitated before hugging me. I hugged her back. "You came." I said I would. Daniel stood behind her watching us. He kissed my cheek. "Morning." "Good morning." His cufflinks were gone. Of course they were. I felt foolish for noticing. Richard raised his coffee. "The groom's mother has arrived as promised. The groom's father-in-law has survived centerpieces. Let's eat." People moved toward the buffet. I filled a plate and sat beside Nora. Daniel and Marissa circulated among their guests, receiving congratulations and complaints about the previous night's music. Patricia retold the story of her migraine, adding nausea and blurred vision. Halfway through brunch, Marissa took the empty chair on my other side. "Can I talk to you?" "You are talking to me." Nora stood. "I suddenly need an intimate egg." She carried her plate away. Marissa folded her hands in her lap. Her new wedding ring caught the light. "I don't want us to leave like this." "What would you like me to do?" "I don't know. Say we're okay." "We're not okay." Her mouth tightened. "That doesn't mean we never will be," I said. "Mom thinks you refused the brunch to make a point. Your mother thinks many things. Daniel kind of thinks it too. Daniel can tell me himself." She glanced across the room. He was speaking with Marcus, but his eyes were on us. "I understand why you were upset about the room," she said. "I do. But yesterday was complicated. It was complicated for me while I was in the hallway. You were inside with breakfast. That makes it sound awful. I haven't added anything." She looked down at her hands. "I panicked," she said. "Mom was crying before 6. She said she couldn't share that space with someone who was judging her. I had not seen her yet. She felt judged in advance. That does sound like Patricia. Marissa gave a reluctant, unhappy laugh. For a second, we were almost ourselves. Then she said, "I thought you'd be more comfortable in your own room. You canceled the appointment." "I know. And you didn't tell me." "I know." Daniel knew. Her gaze moved to him again. "He was supposed to call you. That does not make me feel better." "No." She picked at a loose thread on the napkin. "I guess it wouldn't." I waited. An apology seemed to form behind her face, but Patricia called her name from the buffet. "The fruit is warm," Patricia announced. Marissa closed her eyes. "Go address the emergency," I said. She stood. "We'll talk after the honeymoon. Have a good trip." The disappointment on her face suggested I had refused something else, though I could not tell what answer she expected. At the end of brunch, Daniel asked if I could take 3 boxes of decorations in my car. Their apartment was already crowded with wedding gifts, and the hotel would charge to hold anything overnight. "I don't have room," I said. He looked toward the entrance where my sedan was visible through the glass. "You have the whole back seat. My suitcase and dress are there. The boxes are small. Then they'll fit in your car. We have the luggage for the airport." Richard appeared with a luggage cart. "I can take them." Daniel stared at me while Richard wheeled the boxes away. "This is weird," he said. "What is?" "You never care about stuff like that. I care today." He lowered his voice. "Are you going to do this with everything now?" "Say no. You know what I mean." "I do." Marissa called for him near the elevators. Their airport car had arrived. Daniel shoved his hands into his pockets. "We'll talk when we're back." "You keep saying that. I mean it." He kissed my forehead and walked away before I could answer. I drove home with the blue dress hanging from the hook behind my seat. At every turn, the plastic bag brushed the window. My house felt unusually quiet when I entered. On the dining table sat the leftover ribbon and tissue paper from the welcome bags. I had promised myself I would put everything away after the wedding. I gathered it into a box, then stopped. Daniel and Marissa would normally come for Sunday dinner the following week, though they would still be on their honeymoon. I had already bought the pasta Daniel liked. 2 jars of tomato sauce waited in the pantry. My freezer held the garlic bread Marissa always claimed she did not want before eating half of it. I stood in the kitchen looking at enough food for people who were not there. Then I made myself a grilled cheese sandwich and ate it over the sink. The honeymoon photographs began appearing the next afternoon. Ocean, hotel balcony, Marissa in a wide hat, Daniel holding 2 drinks. I pressed the little heart beneath each picture. I meant it every time. On Wednesday, Nora invited me to join her walking group. "I don't walk in groups," I told her. "You walk beside people. It's less organized than it sounds." I went. On Friday, I bought herbs for the garden instead of groceries for Sunday dinner. I spent the afternoon clearing dead leaves from the bed behind the kitchen. Walter had built the border from mismatched bricks, and grass had grown through the cracks. My phone rang while I was kneeling in the dirt. Daniel's face appeared on the screen, sunburned and smiling in the photograph I had assigned years earlier. "Hey, Mom," he said when I answered. Airport announcements echoed behind him. "We just landed." "Welcome home." "Thanks." "We're exhausted." "You sound it. Can we come over Sunday? We're dying for real food." I looked at the rosemary plant in my hand. "I'm not cooking Sunday." He paused. "Are you going somewhere?" "No." "Then what do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not hosting dinner." Behind him, Marissa asked who he was talking to. Daniel turned away from the phone, said, "My mom," then came back. "We brought you something." That was kind. "So maybe we could bring it Sunday. You can stop by for coffee next weekend." "Next weekend?" "Yes." Another airport announcement filled the silence. "Mom," he said, "are you really going to make our wedding the reason everything changes?" I pressed soil around the rosemary's roots. "The wedding isn't changing anything, Daniel. What does that mean?" "It means I'm noticing what was already true." He did not answer. Neither did I. "I don't understand what you think was already true," Daniel said. A rolling suitcase clattered somewhere near him. Marissa's voice rose in the background, asking whether he had seen her passport. "You're at the airport," I said. "Go home." "You can't say something like that and then tell me to go home." "I just did. What do you want from me?" There was no quick answer that would not turn into another job for me, drafting his apology, explaining my injury, arranging a conversation he had postponed every time it became available. I want you to think about why my not cooking one dinner feels like an attack. It's not one dinner. "You just landed, Daniel. You haven't missed it yet." He let out a breath. "Fine. We'll come next weekend. You can come for coffee on Saturday. I knew what he was correcting. "I heard you." "Okay." He ended the call first. I remained kneeling in the garden with dirt under my fingernails and the rosemary between my hands. Through the kitchen window, I could see the small round table where Daniel usually sat on Sundays. His chair was angled slightly away from the wall because he always leaned back after dinner, no matter how often I told him he would crack the legs. I turned the plant toward the sun and added more soil. That Sunday, I woke at 6:40 and lay in bed trying to remember what obligation had pulled me from sleep. There was none. By 9, the emptiness of the day felt less like freedom and more like a room after people move out. I made coffee for one and poured too much water into the machine. I opened the refrigerator 3 times. At 11, I nearly called Daniel to tell him I had changed my mind. Instead, I called Nora. "Do you want lunch?" I asked. "I thought you didn't cook on Sundays anymore. I can eat without cooking. Now you're just showing off." We met at a pizza place with metal chairs and paper napkins. Nora ordered pineapple on her half because she believed irritation improved my appetite. We ate slowly while a baseball game played above the bar. "You keep looking at your phone," she said. "I'm checking the time. There's a clock over my head." "I don't like that clock. Does Daniel know you're here?" "Why would he need to know?" "He wouldn't." That's why I asked. I put my phone face down. Nora wiped her fingers on a napkin. "How are you? I have enough questions in my life. That bad?" I thought saying no would feel cleaner. "To whom?" "To me." She nodded. People who talk about boundaries always leave out the part where you feel terrible. I feel dramatic. You declined dinner. You didn't fake your death. That would have been less confusing. At least then someone would bring food. She pushed the last slice of her half toward me. "This is food. It has pineapple on it. Grief takes many forms." I laughed despite myself and ate it. Daniel texted Tuesday evening. "Any chance we can bring some wedding gifts over? Apartment is packed." I was standing in the hardware aisle comparing 2 kinds of garden gloves. I read the message, set the cheaper gloves in my cart, then took them back out because the seams felt weak. Saying no had made me suspicious of unnecessary compromises. I wrote, "I don't have space to store them." His reply came immediately. "Garage?" The garage held Walter's old workbench, my lawnmower, 3 shelves of paint, and enough empty floor for my car. There was technically room. That was not the point. "No," I wrote. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. "Okay." 20 minutes later. "Do you still have Dad's drill?" "Need it to assemble the bookcases." I had the drill. Daniel had given it to Walter for Father's Day and claimed it back twice, only to leave it on the workbench each time. "Yes, you can pick it up Saturday. Could you help?" Marissa and I are terrible at this stuff. I stood between fertilizer and birdseed, holding my phone. Walter and I had assembled Daniel's bed after he moved into his first apartment. After Walter died, I helped Daniel hang shelves, mount a television, replace a faucet, and build the dining table he now called his and Marissa's. I was not skilled. I read instructions and refused to skip steps, which made me appear skilled beside my son. "I have plans after coffee," I wrote. "You can borrow the drill." His response took longer. "Right." Saturday morning, I put out 3 coffee cups. I told myself I was being practical. Daniel had said we would come. Marissa was his wife. It would have been childish to leave her without a cup simply because I had originally invited him. At 10:05, the doorbell rang. Daniel stood on the porch holding a glossy gift bag. Marissa stood beside him in jeans and a red sweater. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot, and she looked younger without wedding makeup. "Hi," she said. "Come in." They entered carefully, like people viewing a house for sale. Marissa hugged me. Daniel kissed my cheek. "We brought your gift," he said. "You didn't have to. It's from the honeymoon." The bag contained a silk scarf printed with enormous blue and orange flowers. It was beautiful in the way museum gift shops are beautiful, expensive, bold, and made for a woman with a different neck. "I love it," I said. Daniel looked pleased. Marissa looked relieved. "Try it on," she said. I looped it around my shoulders. It covered most of my sweater. "See," Daniel said. "Those are your colors." I had never worn orange. "It's lovely." For a few minutes, we managed ordinary conversation. I asked about the resort. Marissa showed me a picture of a bird that had stolen toast from Daniel's plate. Daniel complained about the flight home. I served coffee and set out a plate of store-bought cookies rather than the cinnamon cake I usually made. Daniel picked up a cookie. "These are from a package." "They are. Are you okay?" I've been known to survive packaged cookies. Marissa smiled, but Daniel did not. He set it down. "Can we talk now?" I looked at Marissa. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. "I thought it would be good if we all talked." "Did you?" Daniel leaned back in the chair. "Don't start." "I asked you to come for coffee," I said to him. "I didn't invite you to bring Marissa into a conversation about your behavior toward me." Marissa stiffened. "It was my wedding, too." "I know. I'm the one who put up the sign. I also know that. So why shouldn't I be part of the conversation? Because your decision and Daniel's decision were not the same decision. I need to speak to my son about what he chose." Daniel folded his arms. "You're making it sound like I betrayed you." I waited. He looked away first. Marissa placed her cup on the table. I said I was sorry. "When?" "At brunch. You said you understood why I was upset." That was part of apologizing. It was the part before apologizing. Her cheeks reddened. "Fine. I'm sorry." Daniel turned to her. "You don't have to do it like this." "Apparently I do." "That isn't what I said," I told her. "No, you're just sitting there grating every word." I took the scarf from my shoulders and folded it once across my lap. "I'm not asking for perfect words. I'm asking you to know what you're sorry for. I'm sorry I canceled your appointment. And I'm sorry you had to get ready alone." "And?" She stared at me. The kitchen clock ticked above the doorway. Daniel shifted in the chair. "I'm sorry I put the sign on the door," she said. "I should have told you about the change before you came upstairs." "Thank you." Her eyes filled with tears. "But I don't know what else I was supposed to do. My mom was threatening not to come down. She said she felt like everyone was judging her, and you know how she gets when she feels cornered. There was the but, carrying everything the apology had set down. "You could have let her leave," I said. Marissa looked shocked. "It was her choice," I continued. "You made it mine. She's my mother. I am aware that mothers matter." Daniel pressed his palms against the table. "This is exactly why I came with her. You two are talking past each other." "No, we're finally saying the same thing." Patricia's feelings were treated as more important because she made them more expensive. Marissa stood and walked to the kitchen window. "I thought you would understand." "I did understand." She turned. "I understood that you chose me because I was safer to disappoint." Her face changed. The anger remained, but something beneath it recognized the sentence. Daniel stood too. "You're acting like everything we ask from you is exploitation now. Dinner, the boxes, the bookcases. I said no to 3 things. You never used to. That is what worries you. What worries me is that my mother came home from my wedding and turned into someone else. I came home tired. Everybody was tired. And still, somehow, I was the person expected to host brunch, store gifts, cook dinner, and build furniture. No one expected you to build furniture. You asked. I asked for help, and I declined. That isn't you." I looked at him. Maybe it should be sometimes. Daniel's face tightened. Marissa came back to the table. We don't want you to feel used. I believe you. But? No but. Then why does it feel like you're cutting us off? I looked around my kitchen. 3 cups, cookies, honeymoon scarf folded carefully in my lap. The coffee I had made before they arrived. I invited you into my home. For 1 hour, Daniel said. I'm not cutting you off. I'm changing what I volunteer. You're keeping score. I'm finally reading it. He pushed his chair back. One leg scraped hard against the floor. I had imagined this conversation many times during the week. In some versions, Daniel understood immediately. In others, I delivered a sentence so precise that every choice became clear to him at once. Instead, we were 3 adults in a kitchen, all convinced we were the one being asked to disappear. I folded the scarf again. Daniel, I asked, to talk to you alone. You knew I wasn't going to leave my wife out of this. Your marriage is not on trial. It sounds like it is. No, our relationship is. That frightened him. I saw it. He covered the fear with anger. So what? I'm supposed to come back and apologize until you approve the wording? I want you to come back without bringing someone you think will make it harder for me to be honest. Marissa went very still. I'm not using her, Daniel said. Aren't you? He looked at her, then at me. Marissa picked up her purse. I think we should go. Daniel did not move. Mom, I love you, I said. I am asking you to have one difficult conversation with me without arranging the room in your favor. His eyes dropped to the red sewing kit on the sideboard. The garment steamer stood beside it, its cord still bent from being wrapped too tightly. I came here to fix this, he said. You came here to get through it. He flinched. Marissa walked into the hall. Daniel followed, then stopped at the front door. Where's the drill? For one wild second, I almost laughed. In the garage. Forget it. He closed the door behind him. I remained at the kitchen table until their car pulled away. Then I picked up the untouched cookies one at a time and put them back into the plastic package. The scarf still lay across my lap. I pressed it to my face and cried into colors I had never worn. I washed the scarf by hand because crying into silk felt like the sort of thing that required immediate attention. The care label said dry clean only. I ignored it, filled the bathroom sink with cold water, and added a drop of soap. Blue and orange flowers floated beneath my hands. When I lifted the scarf, one corner had wrinkled. Of course, I said. I hung it over the shower rod where it dripped onto the tile. Then I sat on the closed toilet and laughed hard enough to start crying again. At 2 that afternoon, Nora let herself in with the key I had given her after Walter died. She found me in the garden cutting dead stems from plants that did not need cutting. Daniel called me, she said. My shears stopped. Why? He asked if you were okay. What did you say? I said you were upset. You had no right. I also said he should ask you. He did ask me. Then he argued with the answer. Nora lowered herself onto the low brick border. What happened? I told her. Not every word. I left out the part where Daniel asked for the drill because it hurt too much and was too funny, which was a dangerous combination around Nora. When I finished, she looked toward the kitchen window. You put out 3 cups. Yes. That was generous. It was normal. Maybe normal has been too generous. I clipped another rosemary stem. Please don't turn this into something noble. I feel awful. I know. I wanted to call him before they reached the end of the street. Why didn't you? Because I didn't know what I would apologize for. Nora nodded. That was one of the things I loved about her. She could sit beside a silence without trying to furnish it. Daniel did not call again that week. He sent one text on Tuesday asking whether the drill took a specific battery. I told him it did and left the drill in a bag by the front door. He picked it up while I was at the grocery store. The empty bag remained on the porch. By the following Sunday, our disagreement had acquired an audience. Walter's older sister, Carol, called after dinner. Carol lived 2 states away and normally contacted me only on birthdays, holidays, and occasions when she believed a doctor had prescribed something incorrectly. "Is everything all right with Daniel?" she asked. "You'll have to ask Daniel." I did, of course she had. "What did he say?" "That you've been withdrawing since the wedding." I carried the phone into the living room and sat on the couch. "Did he mention why?" "He said there was some confusion about the bridal room. The room was not confused." Carol sighed. "Elaine, you know men. They don't always understand all the emotional pieces. Daniel is 34, not a Labrador. I'm trying to help. Who asked you to?" A pause. "He's worried you don't accept Marissa as his wife." I closed my eyes. Did he say that? Not exactly. What did he say exactly? Carol adjusted the phone. I could hear fabric rubbing against the receiver. "He said you keep separating what Marissa did from what he did, like you want him to take your side against her. I asked to have a private conversation with my son. He's married now. You can't expect him to leave her out." "Carol, did Walter attend every conversation you and your mother ever had? That was different." "Why?" "Because I wasn't married to someone your mother resented." "I do not resent Marissa. You're clearly angry with her. I'm angry with both of them. That's not better." I looked at the framed photograph on the bookcase. Walter stood behind Daniel and me at a summer picnic, squinting into the sun with mustard on his shirt. "Did Daniel tell you they canceled my hair and makeup without telling me? He said the schedule changed. Did he tell you Marissa put a do not disturb sign on the suite and added a note saying mothers were allowed while I stood outside?" Carol went quiet. "Did he tell you he knew the night before and decided not to call me? He said there was a lot going on." "Yes, there was. I didn't know about the sign. That is why you should not have called to correct me." She inhaled. I expected her to become defensive. Instead, her voice softened. "You're right." The apology surprised me enough that I did not answer. Carol continued, "But don't let one bad day destroy the relationship. I am not destroying it." "Then what are you doing?" I looked around the quiet room. I don't know yet. That was the truth, and admitting it frightened me more than anger had. Daniel's birthday arrived near the end of October. For the previous 8 years, I had hosted dinner at my house. He always requested meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and the chocolate cake Walter taught me to make from a recipe printed on the back of a cocoa tin. This year, Marissa reserved a table at a downtown steakhouse. She invited me. I went. Patricia sat across from me wearing a blouse with sleeves that nearly entered the butter. Richard and Denise came, along with Marcus and Amanda. Daniel greeted me warmly but carefully, as though I might be carrying an open container. I gave him a leather laptop bag he had mentioned liking months earlier. "This is too much," he said. I kept the receipt. He hugged me. "Thanks, Mom." Dinner was pleasant. Not false, exactly, just edited. Daniel told a story about their honeymoon. Marissa complained that their apartment still smelled like the varnish from the new bookcases. Marcus asked who assembled them. "We did," Daniel said. Marissa lifted her wine. "And we're still married." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. When dessert arrived, the waiter carried a small round cake covered in dark chocolate icing. Patricia leaned toward it. "This isn't Elaine's cake." Daniel looked at me. "No," I said. "It belongs to the restaurant." "I thought you always made his birthday cake. Marissa planned dinner this year." Marissa's fork paused. Patricia shrugged. "I'm only saying he likes yours." Daniel cut into the restaurant cake. "This one's good." He ate 2 bites. I hated that I noticed. After dinner, Daniel walked me to my car. "Thanks for coming," he said. "Thank you for inviting me." He shoved his hands into his coat pockets. "It was weird not being at your house. It was different. You could still make the cake sometime." "I could." He waited. I smiled and kissed his cheek. "Happy birthday." The cake remained unpromised. Marissa called 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. "I want to host," she said. "That's ambitious. It's our first one married." "I know. I thought it would be nice to have everyone here. You, Mom, Dad, Denise, Nora, if she doesn't have plans." The invitation warmed me before caution reached it. That sounds lovely. Good. So I was thinking you could do the turkey because you make the good one. All right. And maybe your stuffing. Daniel loves it. Of course. The sweet potatoes too, unless that's too much. It is becoming a lot. I know, but our oven is small and you have all the serving dishes. What is Patricia bringing? Marissa hesitated. Wine. Wine? And ice. Is she harvesting it? Elaine. I'm asking. She gets overwhelmed cooking for groups, so I'll cook for the group. You like cooking. I like being invited to dinner. You are invited. At what time? I was hoping you could come around 11 and help me set the table. People will arrive at 3. I looked through the kitchen window at my garden. The rosemary had taken root. Small green needles stood upright against the cold glass. What are Richard and Denise bringing? 2 appetizers and a vegetable. Nora? I haven't called her yet. So your father and Denise are bringing 3 dishes. I'm bringing 3 dishes, including the turkey, and arriving 4 hours early to set up. Your mother is bringing wine and frozen water. That's not fair, I agree. I meant the way you're saying it. How should I say it? She's trying. At what? Marissa became quiet. I regretted the sharpness, but not the question. She's my mom, she said finally. Yes, I don't want to spend Thanksgiving managing conflict. Neither do I. So can we please just have one normal holiday? I thought of the bridal suite. Be easy. Be who we planned for you to be. I can come as a guest and bring 1 dish, I said. You choose which. That leaves me with everything else. No, it leaves you with the meal you offered to host. I thought family helped. Family does help. Family also notices who is always helping. Her breathing changed. Are we really doing this again? We never stopped doing it. Daniel said you were keeping score. Daniel says that because he does not like the total. She ended the call without saying goodbye. An hour later, Daniel called. What did you say to Marissa? I offered to bring 1 dish. She's crying. I'm sorry she's upset. She's trying to include you. She asked me to cook most of Thanksgiving dinner. You always cook Thanksgiving dinner. At my house. So it's the location? It's the assumption. He groaned. Everything is an assumption now. No. Only the things you assume. What do you want us to do? Make a formal request every time we need help. I want you to hear no without treating it as evidence that I don't love you. This isn't about one no. No, Daniel. It's about the fact that you have never needed to hear many from me. He was silent. I continued. I will bring the turkey or the stuffing. Marissa can choose. Mom can't cook a turkey, he said, meaning Patricia. Then perhaps you can. I work all week, so do millions of people who roast poultry. That's not the point. What is the point? The point is that Marissa wants you there. She wants my turkey there. The rest of me is creating a problem. That is completely unfair. Then invite me without assigning me a shift. He breathed into the phone for several seconds. Forget it, he said. I haven't declined the invitation. You don't have to. We can tell when we're not a priority. The sentence was so familiar that I almost missed what he had done with it. Daniel. What? I am not the one who taught you that the easiest person to disappoint should be disappointed. He hung up. Nora invited me to her Thanksgiving the next morning. She planned to serve roast chicken because turkey was too much bird for 6 adults. Richard and Denise were not among the 6. They would attend Marissa's dinner. The others were 2 women from our walking group, and Nora's cousin Michael, who made bread and spoke to no one while carving it. I accepted. On Thanksgiving morning, my kitchen remained clean. I baked 1 apple pie because arriving empty-handed still felt like walking outside without pants. At Nora's table, no one needed me to save the meal. The potatoes were lumpy. The gravy was thin. Michael's bread could have supported a roof. We ate all of it. Halfway through dinner, my phone lit with a photograph from Marissa. She and Daniel stood behind their crowded table. Patricia sat at the center. Richard held a carving knife over a turkey that looked slightly burned. "Happy Thanksgiving," Marissa had written. I stared at Daniel's face until Nora touched my wrist. I typed, "Happy Thanksgiving. I love you both." No answer came before dessert. That night, while I washed Nora's pie plate at my sink, Daniel called. "I saw your message," he said. "I'm glad. Did you have a good time?" "Yes, with Nora. And 4 other people. People you barely know. They asked me to come. We asked you. You asked me to work. So you chose strangers over your family." I dried the pie plate and set it carefully on the counter. I chose a room where my presence was wanted more than my labor. He said nothing. For once, I did not fill the silence for him. Daniel cleared his throat. "That's not what it was. What was it?" "We wanted you there. You wanted the version of me who would cook for 6 hours and pretend it was a gift to myself. That's dramatic. How was dinner?" The question caught him off guard. "What? How was your Thanksgiving?" "It was fine. Did the turkey turn out?" A pause. "Dad cooked it. Richard cooked it." "You know what I mean." "I do. It got a little dry." "Did everyone survive?" "Yes." "Then perhaps I wasn't essential." "That isn't the point. You keep saying that." Behind him, I heard a cabinet close. Marissa said something I could not make out. Daniel lowered his voice. "She worked really hard. I'm sure she did. And Mom criticized everything." He meant Patricia now. 2 women had become Mom, and somehow I was the one he expected to identify by tone. What did Patricia criticize? The turkey, the stuffing, the apartment. Dad bringing Denise. The fact that we had dinner at 3 instead of 2. That sounds exhausting. It was. "Did you tell her?" "Tell her what? That she was hurting Marissa. She was already upset." I leaned against the counter. There it was again, unchanged by weddings or holidays. Whoever hurt loudest got protected first. "I'm going to bed," I said. "Mom. Happy Thanksgiving, Daniel. You can't keep ending conversations whenever they get uncomfortable. I stayed in the last one until you hung up." He became quiet. "Good night," I said. "Good night." The next morning, a photograph appeared in our family message thread. Patricia had posted it shortly after midnight. She sat between Daniel and Marissa on their couch, one arm around each of them. The caption read, "Nothing matters more than being together." Richard's burned turkey was visible on the kitchen counter behind them. I turned off notifications. December arrived in boxes. I brought the artificial tree up from the basement and assembled it in the living room. Walter had bought it after an argument about pine needles that lasted through New Year's. One branch still bent downward where he had tried to improve its shape with pliers. Every ornament carried an old instruction. Daniel's brass trumpet went near the top. The glass bird faced outward. Walter's wooden fishing boat hung on the side closest to his chair, though the chair no longer belonged to anyone. I decorated slowly. In previous years, Daniel came over to string the lights and complain that I owned too many extension cords. Marissa brought peppermint coffee and rearranged the ornaments after I left the room. This year, I put the lights on myself. Halfway around the tree, one section went dark. I sat on the floor for 20 minutes replacing bulbs before realizing the plug had come loose. "Strong and resourceful," I muttered. The tree lit. It was beautiful. It was also no fun to admire alone. I sent Daniel a picture. "Tree's up." He answered with a photograph of their apartment. They had placed a narrow tree between the new bookcases. The shelves leaned slightly toward each other. "Looks good," I wrote. He responded, "Yours too. We communicated that way for most of December. Accurate observations attached to photographs." Then Marissa called. "I'd like to have you over on Christmas Eve," she said. I was rolling dough for cookies I no longer needed to make in such quantities. For dinner, yes, just us, Mom, and maybe Amanda and Marcus if they're in town. Dad and Denise are leaving to see her sister on Christmas morning. What would you like me to bring? She hesitated. Nothing. Nothing? I'm trying something new. I smiled despite myself. What are you cooking? Lasagna. You don't cook lasagna. I have a recipe. Does it contain instructions? Very detailed ones. Then I have faith. She laughed. The sound loosened something in my chest. What time? I asked. 6, and I mean it about bringing nothing. I can do that. It would have been easy to treat the invitation as proof that everything was mending. I knew better, but I let myself look forward to it. I bought Marissa a set of small ceramic bowls she had admired at a craft market. I wrapped Daniel's gift in paper with tiny green trees. I even chose a silver blouse that made the honeymoon scarf look less like it belonged to someone else. 2 days later, Daniel called while I was in the walking trail parking lot. So there's been a change for Christmas Eve. I closed my car door. What change? Patricia wants to have everyone at her house. I thought she was coming to your apartment. She was, but she says it doesn't feel right not hosting. So you're moving dinner to her house? Yeah. At 6? 4? I see. Nora waited near the trail entrance, pretending not to watch me. Daniel continued, We thought maybe you could come over on the 26th instead. Marissa can make the lasagna then. I have plans on the 26th. What plans? Nora's walking group has a potluck. You would rather go to a walking group potluck? I already agreed to go. You agreed to Christmas Eve first. Yes. He exhaled. Then come to Patricia's. Was I invited? Of course. By whom? Marissa and me. Whose house is it? Mom. Again, he meant Patricia. I let the silence ask for me. I'm sure she expects you, he said. Did she say my name? Why does everything have to be this specific? Because specific things happened. She's not going to turn you away at the door. It was the worst possible reassurance, and he realized it as soon as he said it. I looked across the parking lot at Nora. She had begun stretching one leg against a bench with theatrical concentration. Why did she change the plan? I asked. She said Christmas Eve is more meaningful than Christmas Day. To whom? To her. And Marissa agreed? She doesn't want another fight. So I lose my invitation because Patricia might create one. No one is taking away your invitation. I was invited to your home at 6. Now I am apparently tolerated at Patricia's at 4. Those are different invitations. Then we'll do the 26th. I told you I have plans. You can skip one walk. It's a potluck. Fine. One potluck. No. His voice sharpened. You're doing it again. I am not rearranging my holiday after being removed from the original plan. You weren't removed. Ask Patricia whether I am invited. If she says yes, ask her to call me herself. You know she won't do that. Yes. Mom, have a good Christmas Eve. I ended the call and walked toward Nora. Well, she asked, I may need somewhere to go on Christmas Eve. My house, 5 o'clock. Bring nothing. You hate hosting. I'm making soup. What kind? The kind where I open 2 cartons. That isn't soup. That's pouring. You've become very demanding since you stopped being useful. We walked 3 miles, and for most of it, we talked about anything else. On the afternoon before Christmas Eve, Marissa texted, Mom says Dad and Denise can't come tomorrow if Denise is wearing red. I read it twice before answering. Why? She says it was the color she planned to wear. A minute later, Dad says they're not coming. Then, Daniel is going over there. I typed several replies and erased them. Finally, I wrote, I'm sorry. Marissa did not respond. At 8 that night, Daniel called. Patricia had agreed that Denise could wear red if it was clearly a different shade. Richard had stopped answering his phone. Marissa was crying in their bedroom. The lasagna ingredients were still in their refrigerator because Patricia had announced she was serving ham. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, Daniel said. It was the first time in months he had asked that question without assuming the answer was me doing something. Go home to your wife. I am home. I mean, stop solving Patricia. If we don't go tomorrow, she'll be alone. She invited people, then drove them away. She's upset. So is Marissa. He did not answer. Which one are you going to protect? I asked. That's not fair. No, it's Christmas. He gave a tired, unwilling laugh. I have to go, he said. Marissa's coming out. Tell her I love her. You can tell her yourself. The line shifted. Marissa's voice came through. "Hi. Hi, sweetheart." She sounded as though she'd been crying for hours. "I'm sorry about Christmas Eve. You didn't have to cancel. I thought if I moved it, Mom would calm down. Did she?" "No." The word broke in the middle. I sat at my kitchen table beneath the light fixture Walter had installed crooked. Marissa sniffed. "She said if we had dinner at our place, she wouldn't come. So you moved it." "Yes." "And now Richard and Denise may not come." "Yes." "And your dinner became her dinner." "Yes." I heard Daniel say something quietly beside her. Marissa covered the phone, then came back. "I understand what you meant now." "About what?" "About choosing the easier person to disappoint." I closed my eyes. She continued, speaking quickly as though stopping would make the truth retreat. "The night before the wedding, Mom said she wouldn't get ready in the suite if you were there. Then she said maybe she wouldn't come to the ceremony at all because nobody cared whether she felt comfortable." I gripped the edge of the table. "Daniel told me you'd understand," she said. "He said we should just change your appointment and tell you in the morning, when there wasn't time for an argument." The kitchen went very quiet. I had known he knew. I had not known those were his words. Marissa began crying again. I put up the sign because hotel staff kept knocking. The note was for the bridesmaids. "I swear I didn't write mothers to hurt you, but when Amanda said you were outside, I knew what it looked like, and I still didn't open the door." "Why?" "Because Mom was watching me. I could picture Patricia in the mirror, hot rollers in her hair, waiting to see whom her daughter would choose." "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because I did the same thing again. I canceled your Christmas because I thought you would stay." The sentence landed softly. I looked at the tree glowing in the next room, at Walter's fishing boat hanging beside the dark window. "We chose you," Marissa whispered, "because we thought you'd stay. I did stay. I know. That is why you thought it worked." She cried without speaking. I did not tell her it was all right. This time she did not ask me to. "Put Daniel back on," I said. Marissa sniffed. "He can hear you." Of course he could. They were probably sitting 3 feet apart on the couch, passing the phone between them as though distance would change the conversation. "Then I'll ask both of you," I said. "Was the decision made before I came to the hotel?" Daniel answered without taking the phone. "Late that night." "And your idea was to wait until morning?" "I thought Marissa was going to call." Beside him, Marissa said, "You told me not to. I said it might be better in person. You said she'd come in upset and make the morning harder. I did not say it like that." "How did you say it?" I asked. Silence. Daniel took the phone. "I said you might try to talk us out of it. You knew I would object. Yes, so you made sure I couldn't. That wasn't the intention. It was the method. Mom, we made a bad call. You made a deliberate call. Fine, a deliberate bad call." He sounded exhausted, but not yet sorry. Exhaustion often passed for remorse in our family because everyone wanted to go to bed. "Did you think I would leave?" I asked. "No." "Did you think I would cause a scene?" "No." "Did you think I would still bring the cufflinks?" His answer took longer. "Yes." The honesty hurt more cleanly than another excuse would have. "Why?" I asked. "Because they were Dad's. And because I said I would." "Yes." "You counted on me keeping my promise while you broke yours." "What promise did I break? That the wedding day would be different." He became quiet. I could hear Marissa crying softly. I hated that sound. Part of me wanted to comfort her even now. Another part remembered her holding the door nearly closed while she asked for my sewing kit. Daniel said, "I don't know how to fix this. Start by not asking me to fix it for you." I'm not. "You called because Christmas collapsed. I called because I needed my mother. I am your mother. I am not your emergency exit." He let out a short breath. "I'm sorry," I said. That was sharp. No, it was honest. We sat with that. Finally, I asked, "What are you doing tomorrow?" "I don't know. If we don't go to Patricia's, she'll say we ruined Christmas. She will say something either way." Marissa spoke from beside him. "I want to have dinner here." Daniel covered the phone, though not well enough. "What about your mom?" he asked her. "She can come here." "She won't." "Then she won't." Her voice shook, but the sentence held. Daniel came back to me. "Would you come?" I looked at the cookie dough on my counter, still waiting to be rolled. I pictured Nora opening 2 cartons of soup at 5. I pictured myself calling her to cancel because my family had finally located me after rearranging every other plan. I already said yes to Nora. So that's it. I will not break my commitment to someone else because Patricia broke yours. This isn't about Patricia. It has been about Patricia all week, Marissa said. She's right. Daniel lowered his voice. "You don't have to agree with everything right now. I'm not agreeing with everything," Marissa snapped. "I'm agreeing with that." Their marriage had reached the stage of the evening where my presence on speakerphone was not helping. "You two need to talk," I said. Daniel laughed without humor. "That's what everybody keeps saying. You can come for coffee Christmas Day at 4 if you want." "Both of us?" "Yes, Daniel. Both of you. Okay. Merry Christmas. It's not Christmas yet. It has been a long day." That made Marissa laugh through her tears. We ended the call. Nora's soup tasted strongly of salt and faintly of cardboard. She had poured the 2 cartons into a large red pot and added chopped parsley, which she believed made it homemade. Michael brought bread again, softer this time. The 2 women from our walking group brought a salad, 3 bottles of wine, and an ongoing disagreement about whether one of them had stolen the other's parking space in 2019. At 6:30, my phone buzzed. Marissa had sent a picture of their dining table. The lasagna sat in the center, slightly burned along one edge. 2 place settings faced each other. Behind them, the new bookcases leaned inward like interested listeners. "We stayed home," she wrote. I replied, "Merry Christmas. The lasagna looks good." Daniel responded with, "It's very firm." I smiled. Nora looked over my shoulder. "Is that structural lasagna?" "Apparently. Michael can reinforce it with bread." I put my phone away and finished the soup. Christmas morning arrived cold and bright. I made coffee, turned on the tree lights, and opened no gifts because the wrapped boxes beneath the branches belonged to people coming at 4. At 3:50, Daniel's car pulled into the driveway. He carried 2 covered dishes. Marissa carried a white poinsettia and a bottle of wine. When I opened the door, she hugged me before taking off her coat. "Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, sweetheart." Daniel kissed my cheek. "We brought leftovers. Is the lasagna still load-bearing?" It softened overnight. We exchanged presents in the living room. Daniel loved the wool coat I had bought him. Marissa unwrapped the ceramic bowls and immediately arranged them by color on the coffee table. "You remembered these?" I did. They gave me a pair of gardening gloves, a book about herbs, and a framed photograph from the wedding. It was the picture of Daniel and me. My hand rested against his tie. He looked down at me with affection. The cufflinks showed at his wrists. My name had been engraved on a small silver plate beneath the frame. Elaine and Daniel. No extra E. My eyes stung. "We thought you'd like that one," Marissa said. "I do." Daniel shifted beside her. Celeste sent the gallery. "Already?" "She sent a preview. There are some good ones. I'm glad." He looked at the photograph. "You can't see the wrinkle." I laughed before I could decide whether the comment was kind or terrible. Marissa covered her face. "Daniel." "What?" "You can't." I laughed harder, and after a second, so did she. For a few minutes, the room felt almost easy. Then Marissa set down her coffee. "I owe you an apology." Daniel's posture changed. She looked directly at me. "I was wrong to cancel your appointment. I was wrong to put you outside that room, and I was wrong to take everything you brought while refusing to let you come in. I did not move," she continued. "I told myself I was protecting my mother. Really, I was asking you to absorb what I didn't want to confront. I knew you would be hurt. I just thought you would forgive me faster than she would forgive me if I disappointed her." The apology was not elegant. Her voice shook, and she had to stop twice. It was also the first one that placed the decisions where they belonged. "Thank you," I said. "I'm not asking you to say it was okay. It wasn't, I know." She nodded and wiped her eyes. Daniel reached for her hand. "We're both sorry." I looked at him. His fingers tightened around hers. "I mean it." "For what?" His face closed slightly. Marissa looked between us and stood. "I'm going to take these dishes to the kitchen." "You don't have to leave," Daniel said. "I know." She carried the dishes out anyway. Daniel stared at the tree. "I just said I was sorry. You said both of you were sorry after Marissa told me exactly what she did. So now I have to make a separate speech?" "No." "What do you want, Mom?" "I want you to understand your part without standing inside her apology." His jaw moved. "I told you I knew," he said. "I admitted it. You admitted the timing. I took the breakfast because it was falling apart. This is not about the coffee. I know it's not about the coffee." "Then what is it about?" He looked at the wedding photograph in my hands. "I'm sorry the day got so messy." There it was, the day, acting on its own again. "Messiness was not the problem," I said. He stood and walked toward the window. "Nothing I say is going to be enough. You have not said it yet. I told you I made a bad call. A bad call is taking the wrong exit. You chose to make me smaller because you thought I would let you." His shoulders stiffened. "That isn't fair." "What part? You're making it sound calculated." "It was. You discussed it the night before. I was trying to make sure Marissa got through the wedding. Did she need me excluded to marry you?" "No." "Then what were you protecting?" He turned around. "My wife. From me, from her mother, from the whole situation. By giving her mother what she wanted. I didn't have another option. You had several. They were simply harder." His face reddened. "It's easy for you to say that now. It was easy for me to say it in the hallway. You would not let me into the room." Marissa stood in the kitchen doorway listening. Daniel noticed her and rubbed both hands over his face. "I don't want to fight on Christmas." "Neither do I. You could have fooled me." The words came out before he could stop them. Marissa said his name sharply. I placed the framed photograph on the coffee table. "Perhaps you should go." Daniel looked at me. "Seriously?" "Yes." Marissa came into the room. "Elaine, I'm sorry. You do not have to apologize for him." Daniel picked up his coat. "I knew this was a mistake," he said. "What was?" Marissa asked. "Coming here or apologizing?" "Trying to do any of this today." "You didn't apologize. I said I was sorry. You said the day was messy." He stared at her. For the first time, the disagreement was not arranged with me on one side and their marriage on the other. That did not feel like victory. It felt like watching a crack appear in a wall I still wanted to stand. Marissa put on her coat. Before leaving, she hugged me. "Merry Christmas," she whispered. "Merry Christmas." Daniel waited beside the open door. I thought he might walk out without touching me. Instead, he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me. The embrace was tight and angry and frightened. "I don't know how to be what you want right now," he said against my hair. "I want you to be honest." "I am." "No, you're trying to be innocent." He released me. Pain crossed his face. Then he and Marissa left. I watched from the window as they argued beside the car. Marissa gestured toward the house. Daniel shook his head. Neither of them raised a voice, but their bodies said enough. The poinsettia remained on my table. So did the wedding photograph. I turned the frame face down, then immediately turned it back. In January, Daniel came alone. He did not call it an apology. He called it stopping by. I made coffee but did not put out cookies. For 20 minutes, we discussed his job, the weather, and the fact that one of the bookcases had begun pulling away from the wall. "Use the drill," I said. He smiled faintly. I did. The quiet returned. Finally, he said, "I've been thinking about what you said." I waited. I shouldn't have closed the door. It was the first time he had named the action. "No," I said, "you shouldn't have. I saw you were upset." My hands tightened around my cup. "I knew you were upset before I took the food," he continued. "I just thought if I stopped to talk, it would turn into a whole thing." "What whole thing?" "You asking to come in, Patricia getting louder, Marissa crying, me having to choose. You did choose." "I know." The words came quietly. He looked at me, and for one hopeful second, I thought he had reached it. Then he said, "But I chose my wife. Isn't that what I was supposed to do?" I set down my cup. He still believed there had been only one chair in the room. "Is that what you think marriage required?" I asked. Daniel looked down at his coffee. "I think when you get married, your spouse comes first. First is not the same as only." I didn't say only. You didn't have to. There was one room, one upset woman, and one person sent away. You turned it into a test of loyalty because that made the decision sound honorable. That's not what happened. Then tell me what happened. He pushed his cup in a slow circle on the table. "Patricia said she wouldn't come down if you were there. Marissa was panicking. I knew if we told you, you'd want to discuss it. I would have, and we didn't have time. You had all night. I was getting married the next day. There were 100 things happening. There were 100 things happening to me, too. The difference is that nobody counted mine." His hand stopped moving. "I thought you'd be okay," he said. "No, you thought I would behave. That's not fair. You keep saying that whenever I describe you accurately." He leaned back, frustration returning. What should I have done? Honestly, if I'd told Patricia no, she might have skipped the whole wedding. Then Marissa would have spent the day crying. Patricia would have made a choice. And I was supposed to let her? She is an adult. You know how she is. Yes. She has spent years teaching everyone that if she threatens enough pain, someone else will pay the bill. Daniel looked toward the window. Snow clung to the lower branches of the maple tree. A dark line of water ran down the glass where the heat inside met the cold. "I didn't ask you to choose me over Marissa," I said. It felt like that. I was standing in a hallway carrying breakfast. I asked to receive the appointment I had been promised. That was not a challenge to your marriage. But once Patricia made it an issue, it was still not a challenge to your marriage. He rubbed his forehead. "You make it sound simple." It was not simple. It was clear. What's the difference? Simple means the choice costs nothing. Clear means you know which choice is right, even when it costs you. He stared at me. I had not planned the sentence. If I had, I would have softened it before saying it aloud. He picked up his cup, discovered it was empty, and set it down again. "So I was supposed to ruin Marissa's morning. You were supposed to refuse to help Patricia ruin mine." Same result. No. Not to me. His eyes moved to the wedding photograph on the side table. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. "I want you to stop asking that." "Why?" "Because every time you ask, you're asking me to write the answer so you can pass." He gave a tired laugh. "You really think the worst of me now?" "No. If I thought the worst of you, this would be easier." That hurt him. I watched it happen. He stood and carried both cups to the sink. "You don't have to wash them," I said. "I know." He rinsed them anyway, then dried the counter where a few drops had fallen. He was not naturally tidy. The careful movements gave him something to do with his hands. When he finished, he put on his coat. "I'm trying, Mom. I know. It doesn't feel like you know. I know you're trying to end the discomfort. I'm waiting for you to understand it." He opened the front door, then looked back. "For what it's worth, I never thought you didn't belong there." "Daniel." "What?" "You closed the door." He stood very still. Then he left without answering. I expected another long silence. Instead, he called 4 days later to ask whether I had watched a television series we both liked. We discussed the ending for 20 minutes. Neither of us mentioned the wedding. 2 days after that, he sent me a picture of the repaired bookcase. Used anchors this time. I wrote, "Your father would be shocked." He answered, he would claim he invented anchors. The exchange warmed me and made me angry at the same time. Daniel wanted the old ease without walking back through the hard part. I wanted to enjoy my son without treating enjoyment as settlement. Both things could be true, which seemed inconsiderate. Marissa asked me to meet her at a coffee shop near my walking trail. She arrived early and had already ordered my drink correctly. I noticed, because she used to call from the counter and ask me what I wanted, even after 6 years of hearing me order the same thing. "I didn't invite Daniel," she said after we sat. "Thank you for the warning. I wanted to talk to you about me, not him." "That is different." She nodded. "I think I understand that now." A barista called a name that sounded nothing like the name written on the cup. 3 people looked up anyway. Marissa wrapped both hands around her coffee. "Mom says you're turning me against her. Have you spoken to her about that?" "I've tried." "How did it go?" She said my tone was violent. "What was your tone?" "Normal." That can be very upsetting. Marissa smiled, then became serious again. "I told her she can't threaten not to come every time she doesn't get what she wants." "What did she say?" "That I learned the language of abandonment from you." I sat back. She always finds the longest possible route to an accusation. I used to think if I could explain things correctly, she'd understand. Do you still? No. Now I think sometimes she understands before I finish. She just doesn't agree. That sounds likely. Marissa looked out the window. Walkers passed in pairs, shoulders hunched against the wind. "I should have opened the door," she said. "I did not rescue her from the silence. I keep thinking about it. You were standing there." Amanda looked at me because she didn't know what to do, and I knew what the decent thing was. I could have opened it. I could have told Mom to leave if she wanted. I didn't. "No, I'm sorry." "I know. I mean, without the rest of it. Without what Mom said or what Daniel thought or how stressed I was." She met my eyes. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." Her face crumpled, and she looked down at her cup. I reached across the table and touched her wrist, not because the apology erased anything, because she had finally stayed in the room with what she did. She turned her hand beneath mine and held on. After a moment, she said, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" "I think I'm already forgiving you." Her eyes lifted. "That doesn't mean I will forget how we got here," I said. "And it doesn't mean I go back to being the person everyone chooses because she'll recover quietly. I don't want you to. You may miss her. I already do sometimes." The honesty made me laugh. "So do I," said. We finished our coffee. When we parted, Marissa hugged me outside beside my car. She did not ask me to promise Sunday dinners or holidays or a return to normal. That restraint felt more hopeful than any promise she could have made. Patricia called me that evening. "I understand you've been meeting privately with my daughter. She invited me for coffee." Daniel wasn't there. No. What could you possibly need to say that couldn't be said in front of him? I almost admired the speed with which other people's privacy became Patricia's exclusion. "You should ask Marissa." "I'm asking you, and I'm telling you to ask your daughter. She thinks I manipulated her wedding. Did you threaten not to attend if I use the bridal suite?" Patricia inhaled sharply. "That is a grotesque simplification. Is it inaccurate? I was having a trauma response. To my makeup appointment? To years of being judged. By whom, you see? This is exactly what you do. You cross-examine. I asked a question. You make everyone feel as if they're on trial. I thought of Daniel accusing me of putting his marriage on trial. I'm not discussing your relationship with Marissa," I said. "You already have. I discussed my relationship with her. There is no relationship with her that doesn't involve me. I'm her mother. I'm Daniel's mother. He still has conversations without me, obviously." The word came out with such injured contempt that I nearly laughed. "Good night, Patricia. If you hang up, you prove my point. I can live with that." I ended the call. My hand shook afterward. Boundaries were less like fences than muscles. Using them left me sore. Winter loosened slowly. The walking group moved from heavy coats to light jackets. The garden sent up green shoots through soil I had been certain was dead. I wore the honeymoon scarf once, folded narrowly over a black sweater. Nora stared at it for an entire block before speaking. "You look like an expensive sofa." "Thank you." It wasn't criticism. Daniel called more often. Sometimes he wanted nothing. Other times I could hear the request waiting behind his voice, and I made him say it plainly. Could I borrow the ladder? Yes. Could you help us choose curtains? No. Could you send me the meatloaf recipe? Yes. He made it himself and sent a photograph of something dark around the edges. Marissa wrote, "It tastes better than it looks." I wrote, "It would have to." They invited me to dinner twice. The first invitation came with a request that I bring my mashed potatoes, so I declined. The second came without an assignment, but it was scheduled for the same evening as Nora's birthday. I declined that one too. Daniel said, "It feels like you don't want to come. I want to come when I'm available. You used to change your plans." "Yes." He went quiet, then said, "Okay." It was a small word. It cost him more than it sounded. The third invitation was for a Thursday. No occasion, no audience, no dish assigned. I nearly accepted. Then I asked, "Will Patricia be there?" Daniel sighed. "No." "Why did you sigh?" "Because I knew you'd ask." "Why?" "Because she was invited. She said she won't come if you do." The old arrangement sat between us, waiting to see who would be moved. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That dinner starts at 6. I leaned against the kitchen counter. And if she doesn't want to come, we'll see her another time." Something in my chest shifted. "All right," I said, "I'll come." The night before dinner, Marissa called to say Patricia had changed her mind. "Is she coming?" "No. She said she refuses to be in a room where she's merely tolerated." "What did you say?" "I said we'd miss her." There was wonder in Marissa's voice, as if she had pressed a button she had feared all her life and discovered the house did not explode. I went to dinner. The lasagna was softer this time. Daniel opened the door, but only halfway, because a box of wedding gifts still blocked the entrance. He kicked it aside and apologized. We talked about ordinary things. I did not bring food. No one asked me to clean. It was not the ending. It was one dinner. Afterward, Daniel walked me to my car. "Dad's anniversary is next month," he said. "I know. We should do something. We say that every year." His face tightened. The first 3 years after Walter died, Daniel had spent the day with me. The 4th year, he came after work. The 5th, he called. The 6th, during wedding planning, he sent a text just before midnight. "I mean it this time," he said. I looked at him beneath the apartment parking lot lights. "So did you before." He put his hands into his coat pockets. "Maybe I'll come by, maybe you will." I drove home without building a plan around the possibility. When the anniversary arrived, I bought hamburger buns. Walter had loved hamburgers cooked nearly black, with yellow mustard and raw onion. I made one for myself and ate it at the kitchen table beneath the crooked light. At 7:30, the doorbell rang. Through the glass, I saw Daniel standing alone on the porch. He was not carrying anything. I opened the door. Daniel's hands were shoved into the pockets of his coat. His hair was damp from a light rain, and he had not bothered to zip his jacket. "Hi," he said. "Hi." He looked past me into the house. "Is this a bad time?" "I've already eaten. I'm not here for dinner." The fact that he said it made me realize how often food had been the admission price between us. I stepped aside. He entered, wiped his shoes on the mat without being asked, and hung his coat on the wooden rack Walter had mounted too close to the door. The sleeve brushed Daniel's shoulder when he turned. Dad put this in a terrible place. He measured twice. What did he measure? I never found out. Daniel touched one of the hooks. He would have blamed the coat. He did. We went into the kitchen. My plate still sat on the table with a smear of mustard near the edge. One hamburger bun remained in the plastic bag. Daniel looked at it. "You made Dad's dinner." "I made my dinner." "With the onions?" "With the onions." He used to breathe those directly at people. He considered it seasoning. Daniel smiled and sat across from me. I did not offer coffee. I did not ask what he needed. I took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, and returned to the table. He watched my hands. "I almost texted you," he said. "I assumed you might." I wrote 3 different messages. What stopped you? They all sounded like I was checking a box. I sat down. Were you? At first. The honesty settled between us. He rubbed his palms against his pants. I remembered last year at 11:40. I was in bed. Marissa was asleep, and I saw the date on my phone. You sent a heart. I didn't know what to say. A heart requires no nouns. His mouth tightened. I deserved that. You did. I kept telling myself you knew I remembered. I knew you remembered eventually. He looked toward the empty chair beside the window. Walter had not sat there at the end. By then, illness had moved him to the recliner in the living room, and the kitchen chair had become a place for mail. Daniel had spent years pretending the chair was the memory. "I miss him," he said. "I know. I miss him more when I've done something he would have been disappointed in. Walter was disappointed by people putting ketchup on eggs. Don't make his judgment too sacred." Daniel laughed once, then pressed his lips together. "He would have opened the door," he said. I did not answer. He would have told Patricia to get over herself. He might have. He definitely would have. He also might have knocked over the coffee while doing it. That too. Daniel leaned forward, forearms resting on his knees. "I've been thinking about the hallway." I kept my hands still on the table. "I know you have." "No, I mean the actual hallway, not the argument about it." He stared at the floor between us. The bottom of the coffee tray was wet. "You kept moving your thumb because it was getting hot," I remembered. "Your hair was flat on one side from the rain," he continued. "You had your dress over your shoulder, and the sewing kit was hanging from your fingers. When I asked for the cufflinks, you moved your purse away from your hip because the box was inside." My throat tightened. "I saw all of it," he said. "Yes. I saw your face when Marissa said they canceled your appointment. I saw you look at me because you thought I would fix it. I did, and I knew I wasn't going to." Rain ticked against the kitchen window. Daniel lifted his eyes. "I decided before I came down that you were staying out." There was no passive tense, no schedule that changed itself, no day that had become messy without assistance. "I knew you would be hurt," he said. "I also knew you wouldn't scream. You wouldn't threaten not to come. You wouldn't make Marissa spend the morning calming you down. No. So I picked you." I swallowed. "You picked me to hurt." "Yes." The word nearly disappeared as he said it. He looked away, but he did not take it back. I told myself I was choosing my wife. That sounded better. It made me feel like I was doing the loyal thing instead of the easy thing. What changed? Christmas. Watching Marissa do the same thing with you. Watching her move our dinner because Patricia threatened to be alone. He paused, and then I got mad at Marissa for it. Why? Because she let Patricia control our holiday. I waited. Daniel gave a small, bitter laugh. It took me almost a week to hear myself. He ran both hands over his face. "I kept telling you there was no other option because I didn't like the other options. That isn't the same thing." "No. I could have called you. I could have told Patricia the room was for both mothers. I could have moved everyone to another room. I could have said Marissa didn't need to spend her wedding morning negotiating with her mother. Yes. I could have done a lot of things before you got to that door. Yes, and after you got there, I could have opened it." The rain grew heavier. He looked directly at me. "I should have opened it." My eyes filled. Daniel's did too, but he kept speaking. "I took the breakfast, the steamer, and Grandma's sewing kit because we needed them. Then I left you standing there because I thought your love meant I could do that and still have you exactly the same afterward." I pressed my lips together. "I'm sorry," he said. Not that it got tense. Not that everybody was stressed. "I'm sorry I saw you, understood what I was doing to you, and closed the door anyway." A tear slipped down his cheek. He wiped it away impatiently. "I humiliated you so I wouldn't have to have a harder conversation with someone else." I looked at my son. He was 34 years old. He had Walter's hands and my habit of folding pain into smaller shapes so it would fit into a sentence. I could remember him asleep against my chest, feverish in a college apartment, laughing at his own wedding. I could also see the man who had closed the door. Both were true. "Thank you," I said. His face crumpled slightly. "That's it? What did you expect?" "I don't know. You knew what you needed to say. You did not say it, so I would tell you everything was fixed. No." "Good." He nodded. I reached across the table. He put his hand in mine. "I never needed to come before Marissa," I said. "I did not need the first chair, the first photograph, or the first phone call. I know. I needed a place." His fingers tightened around mine. "You had one," he said. "I acted like you didn't." "Yes. I'm sorry." "I know." He lowered his head. We sat without speaking for a while. I could feel the beat of his pulse beneath my thumb. Finally, he asked, "Do you forgive me?" "I am forgiving you." He looked up. "That is not the same as pretending we go back," I said. "I will not go back to cooking every Sunday because you expect it. I will not store everything, solve everything, or rearrange my plans every time your life gets crowded. I'm not asking you to. You may." A reluctant smile touched his mouth. "I probably will, and I may say no. I know. You know tonight. I'll know tomorrow, too. We'll see. That's fair." "No, it's clear." He recognized the word and nodded. I squeezed his hand once before letting go. "Did you eat?" His eyes moved toward the remaining bun. "I thought you already ate." I asked if you did. "No. There is one hamburger left. Did you make it for me?" "I bought 2 patties. That wasn't my question." I looked at him. He was trying, clumsily but deliberately, not to turn my offer into an obligation I had planned before he arrived. "I would like to cook it for you," I said. "Then yes." He stood beside me while I heated the skillet. I sliced an onion. Daniel opened the refrigerator and found the mustard without asking. "No ketchup," I said. "I'm not a criminal. Your father would be pleased." I cooked the hamburger darker than Daniel liked because it was Walter's night. He ate it anyway. We talked about his father while the rain ran down the windows, not the respectable stories from the funeral or the softened ones we told at holidays. We remembered Walter ruining a rented carpet cleaner, pretending he understood football, and hiding anniversary earrings in hamburger buns. Daniel told me something I had never known. A month before Walter died, he had asked Daniel to look after me. "That sounds like him," I said. "I told him you didn't need looking after. That also sounds like you." He said, "Everybody needs looking after. Your mother just makes it hard to notice." I stared at the crooked light fixture above us. Walter had noticed. Daniel set down the hamburger. "I think I heard him as permission," he said, like he was saying you were strong enough to be fine. "What do you hear now?" That he was warning me not to confuse strength with not needing anything. The words hurt, but in a different place. I reached for the empty plate. Daniel caught it first. "I can wash 1 dish." "I know." He washed it, dried the skillet, and wiped the stove. Then we moved into the living room where I showed him the herb book he and Marissa had given me. He inspected the wedding photograph still standing on the side table. "You kept it up." "I like the picture." "I like it too." Pictures are strange. Because they lie. Because they tell one truth at a time. He picked up the frame. "You did love me in that moment." "Yes." "You were also furious." "Yes." He said it back carefully. When he left, it was nearly 10. He put on his coat and stood beside the front door. "Can I come by next week?" "If you want." "I want." "You don't need the ladder?" "No." "The drill?" "No." "Food?" He smiled. "Maybe coffee." "I can manage coffee." He hugged me. This time, the embrace was not angry or frightened. It was simply my son holding me near the coat rack his father had installed in the wrong place. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." He opened the door, then stopped. "I really am sorry." "I know, Daniel." He walked into the rain. The changes after that were small enough that no one else would have photographed them. Daniel called on Wednesdays because he wanted to talk, not because Sunday dinner needed confirming. Sometimes he still began a request with, "You're the only person I can ask," and I made him start over. "Could you help me?" he would say. Then I answered yes or no. Both answers survived. Marissa stopped assigning me dishes when she invited me somewhere. The first few invitations sounded stiff, as though she were reading from a diplomatic agreement. Dinner Thursday, 6 o'clock, no contribution requested. I replied, "Will clothing be required?" She sent back, "Negotiable." Patricia did not become easy. She skipped one dinner, attended another, and spent most of it describing how excluded she had felt before arriving. Marissa listened without changing the seating, the menu, or the time. Nobody applauded. Richard passed the bread. Denise asked about my garden. Daniel changed the subject when Patricia tried to make the wedding suite sound like a misunderstanding caused by hotel signage. It wasn't, he said. Patricia stared at him. He did not look at me for approval. Our old Sunday dinners did not return. Sometimes I missed them enough to pull out the large pasta pot before remembering I had made other plans. Sometimes Daniel and Marissa came on a Thursday, or I met them at a restaurant. Once I cooked meatloaf because I wanted to, and Daniel washed every dish without turning the gesture into a ceremony. The relationship was smaller than the one I thought we had before the wedding. It was also real. By early summer, the rosemary had spread beyond the brick border. I was cutting it back when Daniel called. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked. "At your place?" "Yeah, just us." "What are you making?" "Marissa's doing chicken. I'm in charge of salad." "That seems safe." "Don't underestimate me. I've seen your meatloaf." He laughed. 6:30? I'll be there. "And Mom?" "Yes." "You don't need to bring anything." The next evening, I changed clothes twice and put on the blue and orange honeymoon scarf with a black blouse. I reached automatically for the container of cookies I had bought that afternoon. Then I left it on the counter. At 6:30, I stood outside Daniel and Marissa's apartment with my purse over one shoulder and nothing in my hands. I knocked. Footsteps approached. The lock turned. Daniel opened the door all the way. Behind him, Marissa stood in the kitchen, stirring a pan. The apartment smelled of rosemary and roasted chicken. Music played softly. The boxes that had once blocked the entrance were gone. "You came," Daniel said. "I said I would." He smiled and stepped aside. "Come in, Mom." I walked in empty-handed.